The F word on my report card. Have you ever looked at a report card and seen that lonely, heavy letter F? That feeling can be like hitting a brick wall. It's easy to think it means failed, or this is the end. But what if that F isn't a final judgment? What if it's actually something else, a different kind of signal entirely? Think about it like this. For centuries, people have understood that learning isn't a straight line. It's more like a twisting path. Ancient thinkers, trying to figure out the world, didn't just stumble upon perfect answers. They tried ideas that didn't work. They made mistakes, big and small. And here's the thing. Each wrong guess, each faulty experiment actually taught them something vital. It showed them what wasn't true, narrowing down the possibilities until they got closer to the truth. They saw errors not as failures, but as essential steps on the road to wisdom. Imagine you're trying to build a really tall tower with building blocks. Your first few tries might fall over. Maybe you put too many heavy blocks on top, or the base wasn't wide enough. Those collapses aren't bad. They're like little whispered lessons. Too heavy needs a wider base. Each fallen tower teaches you something specific, helping you adjust your plan for the next attempt. You don't give up on building towers. You just learn how to build them better. Your brain works a lot like that. When you get an F on a test, it's not saying you're bad at a subject. It's more like your brain getting feedback. It's information telling you, okay, this approach didn't work. Let's try a different one. That F isn't a closing door. It's an open window, showing you where more understanding is needed. It's an invitation to try again, to explore a new way of learning, and to find a deeper, more lasting enlightenment within yourself. My secret diary disaster. Have you ever had a secret, a feeling tucked deep inside that you swore would never see the light of day? Imagine a diary filled with your truest thoughts, your biggest worries, maybe even some silly crushes. It feels safe, doesn't it? A private world. But what happens if that world somehow breaks open? What if your secret diary disaster actually happens, and it's found, maybe even read, by someone you know? The first feeling is often a rush of shame, a burning embarrassment that makes you want to disappear. It feels like a dead end, a moment where everything you built has crashed. Like a ship hitting rocks, your private thoughts are suddenly exposed to the harsh light. For a moment, it feels like the end of everything good. But here's the thing about those truly awful moments. They often hold a hidden power. People have known for a very long time that our biggest mistakes, or the moments we feel most broken, can sometimes be our best teachers. Think of it like a scientist trying an experiment. They might spend months, even years, on an idea that completely fails. The chemicals don't react, the machine breaks down. It feels like a dead end. But often, in the very act of that failure, they notice something small, something unexpected, that leads them to a completely new, much more important discovery. The disaster wasn't the end. It was the way to a different path. So, when your secret diary disaster happened, and your private world was seen, it might have felt like a crushing blow. It was messy, and probably painful. But maybe, just maybe, it nudged you to understand something new about yourself. Perhaps it showed you who truly cares, or how strong you actually are when facing something tough. It might have forced you to speak words you never thought you'd say, or realize a truth you'd been avoiding. That moment, which felt like the world ending, quietly became a chance to see things differently, to find a quiet kind of understanding within yourself that you never knew existed. When my best friend left me out, have you ever felt completely alone, even when you used to be part of everything? Maybe worse, when your best friend suddenly shut you out. That feeling, when someone you trusted doesn't invite you, or hangs out with someone else instead, can really sting. It feels like a dead end. Your path with them just stops. But here's the thing. Sometimes, these painful moments, these dead ends, are secret paths to understanding ourselves better. Think about old stories. Many wise people, long ago, talked about how hardship can make you stronger. They knew that tough feelings, like being left out, force you to look inside. Your own mind becomes a quiet place where you have to figure things out for yourself. It's not about finding blame. It's about finding your own strength. This idea shows up in many different cultures across history. They understood that personal growth often comes from uncomfortable times. Imagine a seed. It's buried in the dark earth, all alone. It can't see the sun, surrounded by heavy soil. It might feel like a dead end for that seed. But to grow, it has to push through that darkness, that heavy dirt, on its own. It uses its own energy to sprout, and that struggle makes its stem strong. That difficulty makes it resilient. When a friendship feels off, and you feel left out, it can feel dark and heavy, but pushing through, standing on your own, helps you grow strong roots. So, that feeling of being left out, as tough as it is, can lead you to discover what you really value in a friendship. It can show you your own resilience. It might help you find new interests, or realize you're stronger than you thought. It's not about being okay with being left out forever. It's about understanding that even when things hurt, a quiet strength builds inside you, ready to help you discover new paths. It helps you see yourself more clearly, beyond what one person thinks or does. Getting picked last for the team, have you ever stood there, heart thumping a little, as names were called, one by one, and then you realized you were the very last one left? That feeling, a mix of disappointment, maybe a little embarrassment. It's tough. It feels like a dead end, doesn't it? Like, okay, I'm not good enough. I'm not wanted for this particular thing. But here's the thing. Sometimes, those moments when you feel least seen, least chosen, are actually big turning points. They push you in directions you never expected. Ancient thinkers, even poets from long ago, often wrote about how challenges shape us. They didn't have sports teams like we do, but they knew what it was like to feel left out or overlooked. They believed that when things don't go your way, you learn to lean on yourself more. This isn't about being weak. It's about finding a different kind of strength, one that comes from within, not from being picked first. Think about a tree growing in a harsh, rocky patch of ground. It doesn't get the rich soil or easy sun that other trees do. But because of that struggle, its roots grow deeper, stronger, reaching out further to find water and nutrients. It learns to stand firm against the wind. In the same way, maybe you didn't get picked for the basketball team. So, instead, you picked up a guitar, or started writing stories, or discovered you loved building things with code, and you found a talent, a passion you might never have known you had if your first choice had worked out easily. That last pick moment pushed you to explore. It's a quiet moment, that feeling of being last. It makes you look inward. It asks you, what else is there? What else am I capable of? And often, the answer is something far more personal and powerful than what you thought you wanted. So, when you feel that sting, remember it's not the end. It can be the quiet beginning of finding a unique path, your own true north. In a world full of paths, it teaches you about your own value, not someone else's idea of it. That time I forgot my lines. Have you ever been there? Standing in front of everyone, maybe for a presentation or a play, and suddenly your mind goes completely blank. It feels like the world stops. You know the words are in there, somewhere, but they just won't come out. It's like hitting a wall, a true dead end. For a moment, there's just silence, and maybe a wave of panic. But here's the thing. What if that blank space isn't empty at all? What if it's actually an opening? Sometimes, when we forget the path we were on, we're forced to look around, to find a new way. Think about it. When an artist can't find the right color, they might mix something new, something beautiful they never planned. When a scientist's experiment fails, they don't just give up. They wonder why. They look for different answers. They learn something unexpected. Long ago, thinkers, like the Stoics, talked about staying calm when things went wrong. They believed that what truly matters isn't what happens to us, but how we react to it. So, forgetting your lines isn't a disaster. It's a chance to breathe. It's a moment to adapt. It's where your brain might actually connect dots in a new way, because the old path just isn't there anymore. Think about a time you were trying to solve a tricky math problem, and you got totally stuck. You stared at it, felt frustrated. But then, maybe you stepped away, took a walk, and suddenly, a different idea popped into your head. That pause, that dead end in your thinking, gave your mind room to explore. It let a new solution sneak in. So, the next time you forget your lines, or hit a wall, don't rush to fill the silence. Let it be. Trust that sometimes, getting lost is how we find new places within ourselves. And that unexpected moment of blankness might just be where real understanding truly begins. The broken guitar string. Have you ever worked really hard on something, only for it to break right at the end? It feels awful, right? Like all that effort was for nothing. But here's the thing. Sometimes, what seems like an ending is really just a different kind of beginning. A broken piece can open up a new path, a new way to see or do things. Think about how people used to learn a long time ago. Before big libraries or the internet, knowledge passed from person to person. If a tool broke, people didn't give up. They had to figure out a new way. This constant need to fix things pushed them to be creative. They saw brokenness not as total failure, but as a puzzle. This idea that problems lead to new discoveries has been around forever. Many old thinkers believed facing difficulties made us stronger and smarter, forcing us to look at things differently. Imagine playing a song on your guitar, and suddenly, a string snaps. It's frustrating. You can't play the song the same way, but maybe it makes you try playing a different part of the song on another string, or perhaps you pick up a different instrument, or you even decide to fix the string yourself, gaining a new skill. Sometimes, in science, experiments fail. A reaction doesn't work, but often, those failed experiments lead to unexpected discoveries, showing scientists something they never looked for. The mistake itself became the clue. So, when something breaks, or a plan falls apart, it's not always the end. It might just be the moment when a new, unexpected path opens up. And sometimes, that new path leads to something even better, something you never would have found otherwise. It's a chance to see the world, or yourself, in a whole new light. Lost in the school hallway. Have you ever walked down a school hallway, feeling that little swirl of panic because you can't find your next class? The bell just rang. Every door looks the same. People rush past. And for a moment, you're completely, utterly lost. It's a dead end, right? You don't know where to go. But here's the thing. Sometimes, being truly lost is how we find our way to something new, something deeper. It's not just about finding the right room. It's about how that moment of confusion can open your eyes. Think about old stories, or even wise thinkers from long ago. They often talked about how we learn most when we admit we don't know something. They'd say true wisdom starts when you realize you're a bit lost in your understanding. Like an old mapmaker who got lost in a forest, only to discover a hidden river. That wasn't a failure. It was a discovery. So, you're in that hallway. You're late. You might feel a bit of fear. But what happens? Maybe you slow down. Maybe you really look at the posters on the wall for the first time. Or you notice a quiet corner you never saw before. Perhaps you have to ask someone for directions, and that small act of asking leads to a new conversation. Or you realize a classmate is also lost. This is what we mean by a dead end turning into enlightenment. The path you thought was blocked forces you to look around, to connect, to simply exist in that moment of not knowing. That brief feeling of being lost in the school hallway, or in a tough math problem, or even in your own thoughts, is not always a bad thing. It's a quiet invitation. It asks you to pause, to look closer, and to see beyond where you expected to go. And that's why it matters. Sometimes, the most confusing moments are actually guiding you to a new understanding, a different view, or even just a quieter, more observant way of being. My art project went splot. Have you ever worked so hard on something, poured all your energy into it, and then watched it just fall apart? Maybe it was a drawing, a clay sculpture, or even a story you were writing. And just like that, it felt like a complete mess, a total failure. Here's the thing. Sometimes that splat isn't the end. It's actually a starting point for something else. Something unexpected and often more beautiful. Think about it this way. Artists throughout history have found new paths from what seemed like mistakes. Imagine a painter who spills a whole can of paint. Instead of throwing it all away, maybe they see a new texture, a swirl of unplanned colors. They might start to work with that accident, letting it guide them to a piece they never planned. It's like how an old, cracked pottery piece, once broken, can be mended with gold in a process called kintsugi. The cracks don't disappear. They become part of the beauty, making the object even more unique and valuable. That brokenness tells a story, a history of its journey. So, let's say your clay sculpture collapses before it's finished. Your first thought might be disappointment, right? All that effort wasted. But what if those broken pieces, those crumbled bits, could be molded into something entirely new? What if you found a way to use the shattered parts to create a mosaic, or to build a different, more interesting shape? It's like when you're baking and a cake falls flat. You don't just throw it out. Maybe you turn it into cake pops, or a trifle with layers of fruit and cream. The failure becomes a new kind of deliciousness, and that's why it matters. What we call a dead end in our art, or in our lives, can sometimes be a secret door. It can teach us to be flexible, to see possibilities where we only saw problems. It reminds us that mistakes aren't always errors. They can be chances for fresh starts, for discovering a different kind of beauty we never even imagined. So, next time something goes splat, pause, look closer. You might find enlightenment hiding in the mess. A door that wouldn't open. Have you ever stood before a closed door, feeling its weight, knowing what's behind it could change everything, but it just won't open? It's a feeling we all know, that moment when a path we hoped for suddenly stops, and it feels like everything is over. It's a heavy feeling, like a sudden stop sign when you are moving fast. Sometimes, the door isn't meant to open right then, or maybe, it's not the right door for us at all. For centuries, thinkers and dreamers have faced these kinds of walls. Ancient philosophers, like the Stoics, taught us about accepting what we cannot change. They understood that some doors simply won't open, no matter how hard you push, and that's okay. They believed wisdom often comes from understanding where our control ends. It's about letting go, and then seeing where new ideas, new chances, and new possibilities begin to show themselves. Here's the thing. Trying to force a door open when it's stuck can be really frustrating. Think about solving a really tricky puzzle. You try one way, then another. You feel stuck, like there's no way forward. It's just like a door that won't give. But then, you step back. You look at the pieces differently. Maybe you try a completely new angle, or you ask for a fresh idea. And suddenly, the answer appears. Not through the path you first tried, but from a whole new direction you had to find. Because that first door was blocked, you were pushed to think differently, to be creative, to look beyond what you thought was the only way. So, when a door stays shut, it might not be a sign of failure. It could be an invitation to pause, to look around, to discover a different path entirely. Sometimes, the most important lessons aren't inside the room we wanted to enter. They are found in the quiet courage of accepting that one door closed, and then turning to realize there's a whole world of other doors waiting. Each one a new chance, a new direction for your journey. The silence after the argument. Have you ever been in the middle of a loud argument? Voices raised, feelings swirling, and then, suddenly, it stops. A quiet falls. It's not just the absence of noise, is it? It's a different kind of space. For a moment, it can feel awkward, even empty, like a dead end where the words just ran out. But here's the thing. That silence, that quiet pause, isn't empty at all. It's often where the real work begins, where true understanding starts to bloom. Think about it like this. When everything is loud, it's hard to truly hear anything, even yourself. Your own thoughts get lost in the shouting, in the heat of the moment, but in the quiet that follows, something interesting happens. It's a bit like the dust settling after a big, noisy event. Once the dust clears, you can finally see clearly. People who thought deeply about life knew this. They often talked about the power of stillness, not just as a break, but as a space where wisdom could grow. They believed that new ways of understanding often bloom in the calm after the storm. Imagine, you've had a big disagreement with a friend or a family member. You both said things you might regret. Then there's that long, heavy silence. In that quiet, you're not just waiting. You're replaying the words, thinking about why you felt that way, and maybe starting to truly understand why the other person reacted the way they did. This might work for you. It's a chance to truly listen to your own thoughts, and to consider the other side with a clearer mind. That silence isn't just about what happened. It's about what can happen next, if you choose to listen. So, the next time that kind of quiet falls, don't see it as a blank space. See it as a field, freshly cleared, ready for new seeds of understanding to be planted. It's a deep breath, a moment to reflect, a chance for wisdom to quietly find its way to you, and that's why it matters. It shows us that even after conflict, there's always a path forward, a quiet path to clarity and growth. Missing the bus again. Have you ever stood there, watching the back of the bus disappear down the street? That feeling, a little twist in your stomach, knowing you've missed your ride. It feels like a small stumble, a minor dead end in your perfectly planned date. But what if missing that bus, or any small miss, isn't truly a failure? What if it's just life, in its quiet way, guiding you onto a path you never expected to take? Here's the thing. Sometimes, the moments we label as missed opportunities are actually hidden invitations. Imagine the ancient storytellers, long ago. They often spoke of how heroes on their journeys faced challenges that forced them to change direction. A blocked road wasn't the end. It was the start of a detour. This idea is like a gentle whisper from history. What looks like a closed door might simply be pointing you towards an open window you hadn't even noticed. It's not about giving up, but about noticing the world's subtle nudges. Think about missing your school bus. Maybe you're frustrated, ready to throw your hands up, but then, because you missed it, you have to find another way. Perhaps you decide to walk a route you never usually take, and along that path, you discover a hidden mural, a tiny, beautiful park, or even a lost pet poster that inspires you to help. Or maybe those extra few minutes give your mind space to solve a math problem that was bothering you, or a new idea sparks for a story you're writing. So, missing the bus isn't just about being late. It's a quiet redirection, a moment where the universe slows you down. It's about how life sometimes gently pushes us off one well-worn road so we can truly see and explore another, often more beautiful or insightful one. These small moments that seem like setbacks can truly be the beginnings of new understandings, new connections, or even a deeper appreciation for the unexpected turns life offers. Maybe the dead end was just the winding path beginning. Trying out and not making it. Have you ever poured your heart into something, really tried your best, but it just didn't work out? It's that feeling after you try for the school play or train for the team and you don't get the part. This isn't just about failing, it's about putting yourself out there, giving your all, and the outcome not being what you hoped. It's about the journey itself. Thinkers have talked for ages about learning when things don't go our way. The ancient Stoics, philosophers from long ago, believed what matters isn't what happens, but how we react. They saw setbacks as a chance to practice patience and strength. They didn't see not making it as a true dead end. Instead, they saw it as a path teaching us something new. Life offers lessons, even when we feel disappointed. Here's an example. Imagine a scientist trying to create a super strong glue. They might try hundreds of mixtures. Most won't work. They mix ingredients, test it, and it breaks easily. They try again and again. Each failed try isn't wasted time. It's a step closer. It tells them what not to do. It points them toward the right combination. This isn't about giving up. It's about learning what doesn't fit, so you can find what does. It's like finding the wrong puzzle piece, which helps you recognize the right one. So, when you give your best and it doesn't happen, maybe that dead end is actually a gentle nudge, a quiet whisper telling you to look a different way. It might not feel good right then, but often, you'll see later how it led you to something even better, or it taught you a strength you didn't know you had. When one door closes, it often shows you where other doors might be, and that's why it matters. The day my phone died, have you ever had something just stop? One moment it's there, buzzing with life, and the next, it's just a blank screen. Like the day my phone died, totally black. No alerts, no calls, no connections. For a moment, it felt like the end of the world, a real dead end. But here's the thing. Sometimes, when something stops, that's when a whole new world can start. Think about it. We're always moving forward, always looking for the next thing. But what if the path suddenly disappears? What if the door we planned to walk through closes? This isn't a bad thing. For hundreds of years, wise people have talked about how quiet moments, or even moments of being stuck, can be the most important. The ancient Greek thinkers, for example, often found deep truths not by always seeking, but by stopping, sitting, and just observing. It's like their minds hit a dead end, forcing them to look inward. And here's an easy way to think about it. Imagine you're trying to build something really tall with building blocks. You stack them up and up, but then you run out of the right kind of block. That's a dead end, right? You can't go higher the way you planned, but instead of giving up, you might look at the blocks you do have. Maybe you realize you can make a wider, stronger base, or build something totally different, like a bridge. The dead end forced you to be creative, to see new possibilities you never would have found if you just kept stacking. So, when my phone went dark, I couldn't scroll, I couldn't text, I couldn't look up that funny video. What I could do was look out the window. I noticed the way the light hit the leaves, heard the birds singing louder than usual. I started sketching in my notebook, something I hadn't done in ages. That dead phone wasn't a failure. It was an invitation. It was a quiet space that let other things in. Sometimes, when a path ends, it's just guiding us to a place we weren't looking for. A place where new understanding can truly begin. Writing a story that flopped. Have you ever spent hours on a story, shaping words, building characters, only for it to feel empty? Or maybe you shared it, and it just didn't land. No one quite got it, or it vanished, unread. It's a strange, heavy feeling when something you made, from your own mind, just flops. Here's the thing. A story that flops isn't a sign you're a bad writer. It's just a story that, for some reason, didn't connect. Think about a science experiment. Sometimes a new idea is tested, and results aren't what anyone expected. It might seem like a failure. But scientists don't throw everything away. They look closely. They learn what didn't work. That understanding is valuable. It helps them find the next step. Long ago, thinkers like the Stoics didn't see setbacks as endings. They saw them as teachers. Every stumble held a lesson. It wasn't about avoiding failure, but understanding it. That's why it matters when your story doesn't fly. It tells you something. Maybe the plot was unclear. Characters weren't strong. Or maybe the idea just needed more time, like a seed not quite ready to bloom. Imagine building a paper airplane. You fold it, crease the wings, and toss it. But it wobbles and drops. You feel disappointed, sure. Then you pick it up. You look at the folds. You might change the wing angle, or make the nose heavier. You don't give up on flying. You just learn something new about balance. So, when a story flops, it's not the end of your writing journey. It's a moment where you paused, looked at your creation, and learned something deep about the craft, about yourself. It's a quiet whisper telling you to try a different path, to fold the wings in a new way. That whisper, if you listen, can lead to your next, stronger story. It's not a dead end, but a turning point. Feeling invisible in a crowd. Have you ever stood in a busy hallway, or maybe at a crowded game, and felt like no one really saw you? Not that you were actually invisible, but more like you just blended in. Like you were a single drop in a huge ocean. The waves kept moving, hardly noticing you were there. This feeling, this sense of being unnoticed even when surrounded by people, is what we mean by feeling invisible. It's a quiet kind of loneliness. A thought that your own unique self isn't quite shining through. For a long time, people have wondered about this very thing. Even ancient thinkers asked how each person, each unique soul, could matter in a world full of so many others. They knew that sometimes we feel small. It's a natural part of growing up, learning who you are, and finding your place in a world that can feel enormous. And that's why it matters to explore it. Think about a single firefly at night. If there's just one, you notice its tiny light blinking. But imagine a huge field, full of 1,000 fireflies all blinking at once. It's a beautiful sight. But suddenly, that one firefly's light might not stand out as much. It's still there, still doing its part. It's part of a much bigger glow. This is kind of like us in a crowd. We're still shining, even if our light feels dimmed by all the others around us. But here's the thing. That firefly is still a firefly. Its light is still its own. Feeling invisible isn't a sign you don't matter. Often, it's a quiet invitation. It's a chance to listen to your own thoughts, to see yourself for who you truly are, away from the noise of others' expectations. It's a moment to remember your own unique flicker, to understand that your light, no matter how small it feels in a big crowd, is still entirely yours, and truly important. The big sibling fight. Have you ever had one of those big fights with a brother or sister? It feels like a messy dead end, right? Like the world just stops, and nothing good can come from all that yelling or silent anger. But here's the thing, sometimes the most tangled paths, the ones that feel totally stuck, are actually leading somewhere important. Wise thinkers throughout history, from ancient times to now, often taught that true understanding isn't found in perfect calm. It blooms in the midst of challenge. Think about a strong tree. Battered by winds, it develops deeper, tougher roots. It's the struggle that builds its strength, making it stand tall. It's a bit like how a pearl is made inside an oyster. A tiny bit of sand, something irritating, gets stuck inside. The oyster doesn't just get rid of it. Instead, it works around that problem, slowly, layer by layer, until it creates something beautiful and smooth. That tough little piece of sand isn't a dead end. It becomes a jewel. So, when you and your sibling are having a big disagreement, Maybe over who gets the TV remote, or a forgotten promise. It feels like that piece of sand. It's annoying, it's uncomfortable, but maybe, in that moment, you learn to really listen, even when you're mad. Maybe you find your voice to say what you truly feel. Or maybe you learn the quiet power of forgiving, even when it's hard. And that can make your connections stronger. These aren't just wasted arguments. They're like rough stones tumbling in a swift river. They might be sharp and jagged at first, but with every bump and turn, they get a little smoother, a little more polished. And you, like the stone, become a little more patient, a little more understanding, a little wiser about relationships. So, the next time that storm brews, know that even in the loudest clashes, there's often a quiet lesson waiting, a path to something deeper and more true, hidden right there in the heart of the fight. It's a chance to grow, even when it hurts. A puzzle with missing pieces. Have you ever looked at a puzzle, only to realize some pieces were missing from the start? It's a strange feeling. You see parts of the picture, but never the whole thing. And here's the thing, life can feel a lot like that. We face big questions, or everyday problems, and we just don't have all the information. There are gaps, blank spaces where answers should be. It's like trying to understand something important, but part of the story is simply gone. Think about early thinkers, people like ancient astronomers. They looked up at the night sky, seeing stars and planets move. They saw patterns, but they didn't have telescopes. They didn't know about gravity the way we do now. They had to piece together what they saw with very few facts, making guesses. Their understanding was like a puzzle with huge gaps, where crucial knowledge was missing. They had to imagine what might fill those voids. It's a bit like when you're trying to build something, maybe a Lego set, and you find a crucial part is just not there. You can't just stop, right? You have to figure it out. Do you try to make your own piece? Do you find a new way to connect things, even without that one specific part? You have to get creative. You have to think differently. And that's the beautiful part of a puzzle with missing pieces. It forces us to look closer. It makes us pause and wonder, what else could fit here? Sometimes, the solutions we find by working around those empty spaces are even more clever, more unique than if we'd had all the answers. It teaches us to be okay with not knowing everything. It reminds us that often, the journey of searching for those missing parts is where true understanding begins. When my plant withered, have you ever nurtured a plant, watered it, gave it sunlight, only to watch its leaves turn yellow and fall? It's a quiet kind of heartbreak, isn't it? You put in effort, and it just didn't work out. It feels like a small, dead end, a tiny moment of failure right there on your windowsill. But here's the thing, what if that withered plant wasn't truly an end, but a quiet lesson in disguise? What if its fading was actually a way for you to understand something deeper about life, about change? Sometimes, the things that seem to fail us, or simply finish, are actually opening doors to new kinds of knowledge. People have thought about this for thousands of years. Ancient storytellers and wise thinkers from different cultures around the world often talked about cycles. They understood that everything in nature changes. A tree loses its leaves in autumn, and for a while, it looks bare and empty, but it's not dead. It's simply resting, getting ready for the spring, for new growth. This idea that an ending can lead to a new beginning is everywhere if you look closely. Think about the soil in a garden. When leaves fall and plants die back, they don't just disappear. They break down and become part of the earth, making the soil rich and healthy for the next generation of plants to grow. That end for the old leaves becomes the very thing that helps new life thrive. It's a natural, quiet transformation. So, that withered plant in your room, it wasn't just a sign that you might not have a green thumb. It was a gentle reminder that life moves in cycles. It taught you that letting go is sometimes part of the journey, and that even when something doesn't turn out as you hoped, there can be a quiet wisdom in its passing. Sometimes, understanding blooms right out of what seemed like an ending. My idea got laughed at. Have you ever shared an idea, something important to you, only to have it met with giggles or dismissal? It's a tough feeling, like a small light inside you just got snuffed out. But here's the thing about those moments. Sometimes, being laughed at isn't a sign your idea is bad. It can actually mean it's new, different, maybe even ahead of its time. Think of the past. People who brought up truly new ideas often faced ridicule. For a long time, most people believed the sun revolved around the earth. When Nicolaus Copernicus suggested Earth goes around the sun, His idea seemed crazy. It went against what people knew. His theory was met with much doubt and rejection. It took time and brave thinkers like Galileo to show this crazy idea was true. It changed how we saw our place in the universe. Or imagine you're building something in a science class, maybe a simple contraption out of cardboard and rubber bands. Your friends might see it, chuckle, and say, "What is that?" But you know it's supposed to launch a tiny marshmallow. It looks messy. Maybe it doesn't work right away. But you keep trying, adjusting the rubber bands, changing the angle. Then, pop, the marshmallow flies. That initial laughter didn't mean your idea was worthless. It just meant others couldn't see your vision yet. So next time your idea gets a chuckle instead of a nod, don't let that laughter define its worth. Maybe it means you're seeing something others aren't. You might be on a lonely path, but it leads somewhere unique. Sometimes, the most important discoveries begin with the quiet courage to believe in something when no one else does. That quiet courage, even when it feels a bit silly, is its own kind of enlightenment. The time I didn't speak up. Have you ever had words bubbling inside you, right on the tip of your tongue, but they just stayed there, like a wave about to break, but it pulls back into the ocean instead? That feeling when you could have said something, should have said something, but you didn't. It's a quiet kind of dead end, isn't it? Nothing outwardly happened. No big explosion, no dramatic scene, just silence. But here's the thing. Sometimes, the loudest lessons are learned in the quietest moments. For ages, thinkers have talked about the power of our voice, not just the sound, but the truth it carries. Ancient Greek philosophers, like Socrates, believed in speaking up, even when it was hard, because it helped discover truth. But even they knew that sometimes, listening or holding back could also teach us a lot. It's like a pause button on life, giving you time to really see things. Think about it like this. Imagine you're in a group project, and someone in your team says something that isn't quite right. Maybe it's a fact that's off, or an idea that could make things harder. You know the correct answer, you have a better suggestion. For a moment, you open your mouth, but then you close it. The words get stuck. You just nod along, or look away. Afterward, you might feel a little knot in your stomach, a quiet regret. You replay the moment. Why didn't I say anything? This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about noticing that feeling. That silent moment, that unsaid thought, becomes a mirror. It shows you something about fear, maybe, or wanting to avoid conflict. It shows you what matters to you. This dead end of silence, it holds a lesson. It teaches you the weight of your own voice, the importance of your perspective. It might even teach you about courage, not just in speaking, but in noticing when you didn't, and that's a deep kind of wisdom. It's understanding that even when we feel like we failed to act, we still learn something vital about ourselves and the world around us. It makes the next time, just maybe, a little bit different. Getting stuck on a problem. Have you ever tried to solve a puzzle, a really tough one, and felt completely stuck? Maybe it was a math problem that just wouldn't click, or a storyline you couldn't untangle in your mind. That feeling, that moment, when your usual ways of thinking just stop working, is what we mean by getting stuck. It's like hitting a wall in your thoughts, a silent, stubborn blockage. Here's the thing. This isn't a new feeling. People have been experiencing it forever. Way back, philosophers like the ancient Greeks spent their lives thinking deeply. They knew that sometimes the most important learning happened not when things were easy, but when they were hard. They believed real wisdom came not from knowing every answer, but from wrestling with questions, even when it felt impossible to find a solution. Think about Socrates, a famous Greek thinker. He often asked questions that made people feel confused, even stuck, because he believed that was when they truly started to think in new ways. So, imagine you're trying to build a really complex Lego set, but you've missed a tiny, crucial piece. You've looked everywhere, tried every combination, but it just won't fit, and the whole structure seems impossible. Your brain feels jammed, frustrated, or maybe you're trying to explain a tough feeling to a friend, and the right words just won't come out. You know what you want to say, but it's like your mouth is stuck. This stuck feeling isn't a sign of failure. It's actually a quiet whisper from your mind, telling you something new is needed. It's an invitation to pause, to look at things differently, to open up to a path you hadn't seen before. It's often the very place where new understanding begins to bloom, quietly, in the stillness of being stuck. It's a powerful moment, truly. That failed experiment. Have you ever tried something really hard, put all your effort into it, and it just didn't work? Maybe it was a science project that totally flopped, or a drawing that just wouldn't look right. No matter what you did, it feels like a dead end, doesn't it? Like you wasted your time, or you just weren't good enough. But here's the thing. What if that failed experiment wasn't a failure at all? What if it was just a different kind of success, waiting to be understood for a long, long time? People have thought about this. Ancient thinkers, wise people from history, they understood that learning often comes wrapped in mistakes. It's like the famous inventor, Thomas Edison, who tried thousands of times to make a light bulb work. He didn't say, "I failed thousands of times." Instead, he said, "I found thousands of ways that won't work." He saw each try as a step forward, a piece of knowledge gained, not a step back. Each dead end showed him a new path to avoid, bringing him closer to the right one. Think about a time you tried to bake cookies, following a recipe exactly, but maybe you mixed something wrong, or the oven was too hot, and they came out flat, or burnt. You might feel disappointed. But next time, watch the oven more closely, or don't mix that ingredient so much. You learned something important about baking, even though the first batch wasn't perfect. That messy, uneaten cookie was actually a teacher. These moments, when things don't go as planned, are often our deepest teachers. They show us not just what doesn't work, but they also show us our own strength, our ability to keep trying, or even to find a completely new way. A failed experiment isn't the end of the road. It's often just the unexpected map to a wiser, more creative you. It's a quiet moment, helping you grow into something stronger, something more. My favorite show got cancelled. Remember that feeling when your favorite TV show got cancelled? It's like a quiet punch to the gut, isn't it? You've invested hours, you know the characters, you love the story, and then, poof, it's just gone. It feels like a dead end, a path that suddenly stopped. But here's the thing, sometimes these unexpected stops, these small endings, are actually beginnings in disguise. Think about it. For centuries, people have understood that change is a constant hum in life. Long ago, wise thinkers observed that nothing truly stays the same forever. A seed breaks open to become a plant. A caterpillar goes into a cocoon to become a butterfly. Even the stars in the sky change over billions of years. They knew that endings aren't always sad closures. Often, they're just moments of transformation, clearing space for something else. It's like how a building gets torn down, and for a while, there's just an empty lot. But then, a new building starts to rise, something fresh and different. So, when your show disappeared, maybe you felt a bit lost. What would you watch now? What would you look forward to? But then, perhaps you found a new show that surprised you, or you started reading more, or picked up a new hobby you never would have tried. That blank space left by your cancelled show wasn't empty for long. It filled with something new, something you might not have found if your old favorite had kept going. That cancelled show wasn't just an end. It was a nudge, a quiet invitation to explore a different path. It showed you that even small disappointments can open up new ways of seeing, new experiences, new parts of yourself. It's a gentle reminder that every ending, even a tiny one, carries the quiet possibility of a new discovery. A promise that broke. Have you ever felt that quiet ache? The one that settles deep inside when something you truly believed in, something you were promised, just vanishes. It's a strange kind of emptiness, isn't it? A promise, after all, is meant to be like a steady hand reaching out, a bridge built on words. But what happens when that bridge crumbles right beneath your feet? Here's the thing. People have been thinking about promises for a very long time. In ancient times, a promise wasn't just words. It was an oath, a sacred vow. Think of old stories where kings swore on their honor, or knights pledged their loyalty. Breaking such a promise wasn't just a small mistake. It could tear apart families, start wars, or ruin a person's entire reputation. It showed a broken trust, and trust is like the invisible glue that holds communities together. When it shatters, the pieces scatter far and wide. Consider a simple example. Maybe you and a friend plan to work on a big school project together. You both promise to pull your weight, to share the load. You count on that. You start building your part, trusting they're doing theirs, but then they don't show up for meetings. Their parts aren't done. The promise, that shared agreement, just falls apart. Suddenly, you're left holding all the pieces, feeling the weight of the unfinished work and the sting of disappointment. It hurts, right, like a carefully built sandcastle washed away by an unexpected wave. But here's what I found. Even in that quiet ache, there's something to learn. A broken promise can be a harsh teacher. It forces you to look at things differently, to see where the cracks were, or to understand what truly matters to you. Maybe it teaches you about resilience, about picking up the pieces and finding a new way forward. Or perhaps it teaches you about being more careful with your own promises. Sometimes, when something breaks, it clears a space. It allows new ideas, new strengths, and new understandings to grow in its place. The ending of one path can truly be the beginning of another. The wrong turn on my bike. Have you ever been riding your bike, feeling completely sure of your way, then suddenly realize you've turned onto a street you don't know? That quick moment when your familiar world shifts. It feels a bit like a mistake, a dead end. But here's the thing. Sometimes, these wrong turns aren't dead ends at all. They are quiet doorways to new understanding. Think about how people learned about the world. For a long time, many believed the earth was flat. Sailors were scared to go too far, worried they'd fall off. But brave explorers, some by planning, some by accident, pushed further. They didn't just find new lands, they changed our whole idea of what the world is. Their wrong turns on the map helped us see a bigger, rounder truth. It's like when you're solving a puzzle. You try one piece, and it's totally wrong. You might feel a little stuck, but seeing why that piece didn't fit helps you find the right one more clearly. You learned something important from the mistake itself. The wrong choice showed you a new way. So, that wrong turn on your bike, maybe it led you past a beautiful garden you'd never seen, or down a quieter street with interesting old houses. It might have taken a little longer to get home, but you brought back a new picture in your mind. You gained a new sense of your neighborhood, all because you got a little lost. Life is often like that bike ride. We have our plans, our usual routes, but sometimes a path we didn't mean to take opens up. It can feel confusing. Yet, if we stay open and look, those unexpected detours often lead us to places we never would have imagined. They show us a different kind of beauty, a deeper truth about ourselves and the world. And that's why these paths matter. When my pet got sicker, you ever felt that deep, heavy worry when someone you love is hurting? Like when your special pet suddenly isn't themselves. It feels like a dead end, doesn't it? A path blocked by fear and sadness. Your heart aches. You wish you could just fix it. But sometimes, these painful moments aren't really endings. They're turning points. They force us to stop, to look closer, to feel things we might usually avoid. And in that quiet stopping, something new can bloom. A different kind of understanding. Think about what wise people have noticed through history. They saw that humans grow strongest not when everything is easy. It's when they face real hardship. It's like a tree. Strong winds don't just blow it down. They make its roots grow deeper, holding on tighter to the earth. That struggle creates strength. It shows you what you truly care about and what you're capable of. This is a bit like when you're trying to learn something really hard. Maybe a new skill or a complex math problem. You hit a wall. You feel stuck. You might even want to give up. But if you push through, if you ask for help, if you try again differently, you don't just solve the problem. You also learn patience and grit. That feeling of accomplishment is bigger because of how hard you worked. Here's what I found. The dead end taught you more than an easy path ever could. When our pet was sick, it hurt deeply. It was a time of vulnerability and fear, but it also taught me about a kind of love that asks nothing, only presence. It taught me about caring for something fragile, and about the quiet strength inside me I didn't know was there. These hard moments don't just pass, they leave a mark, a deeper wisdom, like soft ripples spreading in a quiet pond. Trying to fit in, but couldn't they? Have you ever felt like a lonely star, shining a little differently than all the others in the sky? Or maybe like a puzzle piece that just doesn't quite click into place, no matter how hard you push. That feeling of trying to belong, but finding yourself still on the outside, is something almost everyone knows and feels deep inside. It's when you try to change yourself, your true self, just to fit into a group or a situation. You might laugh at jokes you don't find funny, or pretend to like music that makes your ears hurt, all because you just desperately want to be accepted. This isn't a new feeling, not at all. For a very long time, Thinkers and ordinary people have talked about the struggle to be your true self when the world wants you to be someone else. Sometimes, society tells us there's a right way to be, a normal way. But what if your normal is different? What if your special light shines in a unique color? History is full of people who felt this way, who tried to bend themselves into shapes that weren't theirs. They learned that forcing yourself to be someone you're not can actually make you feel more alone, not less. Think about a chameleon. Its superpower is changing colors to blend in, right? But even a chameleon has its natural, true colors that are part of what it is. Imagine if it always had to be the color of the rock, even when it wanted to be the color of the leaf. That's a bit like us. We try to blend in with the background, to match what everyone else is doing. But eventually, that forced blending feels wrong. It can feel like you're losing a piece of yourself, like you're hiding your own unique glow from the world. And here's the thing. Sometimes, not fitting in is the very path to finding your real place. It's like finding a different puzzle box, one that's actually designed for your unique shape. It's in those moments of feeling like you don't belong that you often discover who you truly are, what you truly care about, and where you're truly meant to shine. It can lead you to connect with others who appreciate your real light, not the one you tried to fake. It teaches you that some dead ends are just turns onto a better road, a road that leads you home to yourself. The blank page staring back. Have you ever stared at a blank page, a blank screen, or even just a wide open space, and felt nothing, just a vast emptiness? It's a moment we all know, that feeling when you have to start something new, but there's no clear path. It can feel like a dead end before you even begin. This blank page isn't just about writing. It's a symbol for any new beginning, any challenge where you create something from nothing. It's a starting point that feels like an ending, showing you how much you don't know. It's like the world is saying, okay, what's next? And for a moment, you might not have an answer. That's the dead end. Think about ancient philosophers, like those in Greece, or even great artists. They often spoke about the void, a space before creation. Before the universe, there was believed to be nothing, a great emptiness. To them, this wasn't always scary. It was the ultimate potential. It was a space where everything could become something. Even wise thinkers knew that starting with nothing could be powerful. It's the moment before an idea sparks. Consider a scientist trying to find a cure for a disease. They start with countless questions and very few answers. It's a blank page of knowledge. They might run experiment after experiment, seeing only failures. Each failed test is like a mark on that blank page, saying not this way. But each failure also teaches them something. It narrows down possibilities. Or imagine a new video game level. You start in an empty room, no instructions. You try left, try right, fail, reset. But each try tells you something about the game, about hidden paths. You're learning by trying. So, when you see that blank page, try not to see an end. See it as pure possibility. It's a sign you're on the edge of something new. It's a chance to invent, to discover. That first feeling of nothing isn't a dead end. It's actually the very beginning of enlightenment, because it forces you to look deeper, to think differently, and to finally create. The blank page isn't empty. It's waiting. My secret crush said no. Has your heart ever felt like a crumpled piece of paper after someone you really liked told you no? That feeling can be sharp, like a sudden drop. It feels like a closed door on a dream you held close. But here's the thing. A no isn't always a dead end. Sometimes, it's just a turn in the road, leading you somewhere new. Thinkers have long talked about facing things we can't control. Imagine ancient Stoic thinkers. They believed strength wasn't about getting everything, but how you reacted when things didn't go your way. A no from someone else. That's not in your control. But you can control how you feel and what you do next. This moment forces you to look inward, to understand your feelings and see what really matters. Think about a scientist in a lab. They might try hundreds of experiments, and many will fail. The experiment says no to their idea, but each no isn't a failure. Instead, it tells them what doesn't work. It helps narrow possibilities. It pushes them to try a new angle. This often leads to a new discovery they wouldn't have found if the first try worked perfectly. It's like finding a puzzle piece doesn't fit, so you look for where it does fit, or even discover a new way to build the puzzle. So, when your secret crush says no, it feels personal, and it hurts. but it's also a chance to learn about your resilience. It's a chance to discover what truly makes you happy, beyond what you thought you wanted. It's a quiet moment, asking you to believe in your path, even if it looks different from what you first imagined. You are stronger than you know. A project too big to start. Have you ever looked at a huge task, like a big school project, or a room needing a total cleanup? You stand there, hands on hips, feeling it's impossible, so big, so overwhelming, you don't know where to begin. That feeling, stuck before you start, is a dead end. Here's the thing. Many great achievements began with someone feeling that way. Think about the pyramids. They didn't just appear. An author writing a massive book, not written all at once. Even the longest journey, as an old saying goes, starts with one step. Thinkers said breaking the huge into tiny pieces gets big things done. It's taking the first breath, placing the first stone, or writing the first sentence. So, when you look at that messy room, instead of clean the whole room, maybe just pick up one sock. For that huge research paper, not write the entire thing, but write one introduction sentence. It's like a plant growing. It doesn't instantly become a tree. It starts as a tiny seed, pushes a root, then a sprout, slowly reaching for the sun, one growth at a time. The real dead end isn't failing after you try. It's being too afraid to take that first small step. But here's what I found. When you take that single tiny step, something shifts inside you. The mountain doesn't shrink, but your fear does. That one small action becomes a quiet ripple. It's a brave act of trust, a gentle whisper. I can begin. And in that small beginning, the path forward appears, not as a giant leap, but as a series of possible steps. It's choosing to move, even when the whole picture seems too grand. The game we lost badly. Have you ever felt like you truly lost something? Not just a little, but completely. Like a game that went so wrong, the score wasn't even close. It stings, doesn't it? That feeling of total defeat can feel like the end of everything, a giant, flashing dead-end sign. But here's the thing. Sometimes, losing that badly is exactly what shows us a different, brighter path we never would have seen otherwise. Think about it. For centuries, people have stumbled through life, making mistakes, sometimes huge ones. Ancient thinkers, like the Stoics, often talked about accepting things we couldn't change, and learning from every single event, good or bad. They saw failure not as a finish line, but as a teacher. History is full of explorers who got lost, inventors whose creations blew up, or leaders who made terrible decisions. It felt like a dead end, a game lost terribly. But those moments, those complete crashes, often forced them to look harder, think differently, and ultimately find something amazing. Imagine a science project for the fair. You and your team work so hard, but on presentation day, your volcano doesn't erupt, your robot arm falls apart, or your plant experiment just ... wilts. You feel like you lost badly. Not just the fair, but your whole effort. It's embarrassing. But in that complete failure, you might actually learn more. Maybe you realize your design was flawed, or your understanding of the chemicals was off, or you needed to water the plants differently. You dig into why it failed. That deep dive into what went wrong, that painful reflection on a lost game, is where real understanding often begins. So, when we lose really badly, it's not just the end of something. It's often the start of a much deeper kind of wisdom. It's like the ground has to break and shift before new springs of knowledge can bubble up. That ache of defeat can carve out space in our minds for ideas we never would have found if we'd just won easily. It's a hard lesson, yes, but often the most important one. Forgetting my homework at home. Have you ever walked into class, reaching for your backpack, only to feel that sudden cold dread? That moment when you realize your completed homework is still sitting on your desk at home. It feels awful, right? Like a huge mistake, a failure that will instantly drop your grade or disappoint your teacher. But here's the thing. What if that sinking feeling, that moment of forgetfulness, isn't a dead end at all? What if it's actually a quiet, unexpected path towards something important? Think about it. When you forget something crucial, you're suddenly faced with a problem right now. You can't just ignore it. Long ago, wise thinkers like the Stoics, who lived in ancient Greece, had an idea about this. They believed that while we can't always control what happens to us, like leaving our homework behind, we can always control how we react to it. Forgetting your paper is just an event. Getting upset or feeling like a total failure is your choice, your reaction. And that reaction, can either trap you or set you free. It's a bit like learning to ride a bike. You fall, you scrape your knee. That fall feels like a failure in the moment, a direct result of something you did wrong. But here's what happens. Each wobble, each tumble, teaches your body and mind what not to do, or how to balance better. The scraped knee isn't the end of the journey. It's a lesson embedded in the process. So, when your homework is missing, it might teach you to be more organized, or to ask for help, or even just to be honest with your teacher. These small failures aren't really failures in the long run. They are tiny nudges. They help you build resilience, which means bouncing back when things are tough. They make you stronger, not weaker. They are secret invitations to grow, to learn something new about yourself and how you handle life's little unexpected turns. That awkward family dinner. Have you ever sat at a dinner table, maybe with family, and felt a strange quiet, not peaceful, but one that hums with unsaid words, or a feeling of being a little out of place, even stuck? That's that awkward family dinner moment. Here's the thing, sometimes, these uncomfortable, silent spaces, these dead ends of easy conversation, are actually secret doors. We usually want things to be smooth, easy, filled with laughter, but history, and our own lives, show something different. Many wise people, from ancient times, discovered that true understanding often comes not from quick answers, but from the questions lingering in the air, or the silences that gently push us to look deeper. They knew awkwardness isn't always bad. It's often a crucial pause. Think about a tiny seed planted in the dark, damp earth. It's silent, unseen, and feels utterly stuck in its confined space. But within that quiet, that awkward moment underground, amazing, unseen work happens. The seed gathers strength, changing its form, preparing for an explosion of life. It's in that tight, dark spot that it learns how to push through the soil, how to reach for the sun. That initial struggle, that feeling of being trapped, isn't a failure. It's the most important part of its journey to becoming a strong plant. So, when you find yourself in one of those moments, that silent dinner, that strange hallway, that quiet classroom where everyone seems to be waiting, don't rush to fill the silence. Let it breathe. Look around. Look inside. Maybe that uncomfortable quiet is teaching you to listen more, or to notice a detail you missed. Perhaps it's simply showing you how to be okay with just being right where you are. These moments, which feel like a wall, are often precisely where the quiet seeds of new understanding begin to sprout. They gently show you a path you hadn't even known existed, inviting you to look at the world and yourself in a new, softer light. My voice crack in front of everyone. Have you ever had a moment where everything just stopped? Maybe your mind went totally blank, or your voice did something unexpected, right in front of everyone. It feels like the world pressed pause, just to highlight your biggest stumble, like you hit a dead end, a moment you wish you could just erase. But here's the thing, sometimes, these very moments, these small cracks in our perfect plans, are exactly where a new kind of light gets in. For a long time, people have understood this idea. Ancient thinkers, like the Stoics, believed that facing discomfort, even embarrassment, wasn't a punishment. It was a teacher. Think about how many inventions came from hundreds of failed attempts, or how a scientist learns more from an experiment that doesn't work than from one that goes perfectly as planned. The dead end wasn't the end. It was the way to figure out the right path. It showed you where you needed to grow, or where your true strength lay hidden. Imagine you're giving a presentation at school, maybe about a book you really love. You've practiced, but right in the middle, your voice suddenly squeaks, or it cracks, and you feel your face get hot. You feel everyone watching. For a second, it's total panic. That's the dead end feeling. But then, maybe you take a breath, you pause, you keep going, maybe a little softer, a little slower. And what happens? You realize the world didn't end. People probably didn't even notice as much as you thought. Or, if they did, they understood. You learned that you could push through the awkwardness. You discovered you're stronger than a little stumble. So, those moments when your voice cracks, or you trip, or you say the wrong thing, they aren't meant to hold you back. They're like tiny windows that open up in unexpected places. They show you that being human means being imperfect. And sometimes, that imperfection is the most beautiful, most real part of us. It's how we learn to be brave, one wobbly step at a time, moving towards a deeper understanding of ourselves. The day my favorite toy broke. Do you remember the day your most favorite thing broke? the one you held so tight that felt like part of you. Maybe it was a worn-out toy, a favorite drawing, or even a memory that suddenly felt lost. That moment, it felt like a part of you might have shattered too, didn't it? For a long time, it feels like an end, a sad, empty space. We just see the broken pieces. But here's the thing, when something breaks, it often creates a new space, a different kind of beginning, if we let it. Think about it. Ancient thinkers, long before us, understood that change is always happening. Like a river that's never the same river twice. Even if it looks like it, things are always moving. They knew that sometimes, for new things to come together, old things need to fall apart. It's not just about losing, it's about making room for something else, something different. It's a natural cycle of life. It's a bit like when you're building with Legos, you create this amazing castle, right? You love it. Then, maybe by accident, it topples and falls apart. All those pieces scatter across the floor. For a moment, it's just a pile of broken dreams for that castle. But then, you look at the individual bricks. Suddenly, you can build a spaceship or a robot. The broken castle didn't just end. It became the parts for something completely new. The pieces were still there, just in a different form. And your mind had to think in a new way. So, when that special toy broke, it was sad. It was a dead end for that specific toy. But maybe, just maybe, that moment of brokenness taught you something. It taught you about letting go, or finding joy in creating something new from what remained. It showed you that endings can hold quiet, gentle beginnings, waiting for you to notice them. It's a quiet truth. Sometimes, the breaking open is where the real learning starts, where our understanding truly grows. Feeling unfairly treated. Have you ever felt a sharp, heavy weight in your chest, a burning heat behind your eyes, because something just didn't seem right? Like the world tilted, and you got the short end of the stick, even when you tried your best. That feeling, that sting, is what it means to feel unfairly treated. It's a deep, human ache. It's when you work incredibly hard on a school project, pour your heart into it, only for someone else to get all the credit, or even worse, for your effort to go completely unnoticed. For centuries, people have wrestled with this feeling. Ancient thinkers wondered about fate and justice, about why good people suffer and bad people sometimes seem to get away with everything. They didn't always have easy answers. Here's the thing, this isn't a new emotion. It's woven into the fabric of what it means to be human, to seek balance and fairness in a world that often feels unbalanced. Think about it like a complicated machine. Sometimes, a tiny cog, through no fault of its own, gets stuck, even if all the other parts are moving perfectly. It's not fair to that cog, but it happens. Consider a time when you genuinely believed you deserved a higher grade on a test, but the teacher marked you down for reasons you couldn't understand. Or maybe you tried out for a sports team, gave it your all, but didn't make the cut, while someone who seemed less committed did. In those moments, it feels like a wall, a dead end blocking your path. But here's what I found. This deep feeling of injustice, as painful as it is, can be a quiet teacher. It can show you your own strength, your sense of what is right and wrong. It can build a quiet fire within you, not of anger, but of determination. It can also open your eyes to the unfairness others face, building empathy in your heart. Sometimes, those difficult moments, those perceived dead ends, push us to find different ways to shine, to create our own light, even when the world seems dim. It helps us understand that while fairness isn't always promised in life, our response to its absence can be incredibly powerful, shaping who we become. A plan that fell apart, remember, those moments when a carefully made plan just fell apart. Maybe it was a perfect idea for a school project, or a long-awaited trip that got cancelled. We pour our hopes into these plans, imagining the smooth path. Then, suddenly, the path crumbles. The map we drew doesn't match the road anymore. It feels like a dead end, doesn't it? Like all that effort was wasted. And now, you're standing in a messy pile of what-ifs, single quotes. But here's the thing. Sometimes, these broken pieces are not the end of the road. They are new beginnings in disguise. Think about people throughout history who faced huge setbacks. Consider Thomas Edison, trying to invent the light bulb. He failed thousands of times. Each attempt was a plan that didn't work. He didn't call them failures, though. He saw them as finding 10,000 ways that won't work. Each broken plan taught him something vital. narrowing down the possibilities until he found the one that glowed. It's like when you're building something with LEGOs. You have a picture in your mind, a clear design. You start building, but then a piece doesn't fit, or you run out of a color. Your original plan falls apart. At first, it's frustrating, but then you look at the pieces differently. Maybe you build something even cooler, something you never would have thought of if the first plan hadn't gone wrong. These limits push you to be more creative. So, when a plan shatters, don't just see the broken pieces. Look for the light that shines through the cracks. It might be showing you a hidden path, one you never even considered. Sometimes, the universe takes our carefully drawn maps and crumbles them up, not to punish us, but to show us a wider, more beautiful landscape we never knew existed. There's a quiet strength in letting go of what you thought should be, and finding wonder in what actually is. This can lead you to something truly unexpected and amazing. When I felt so small, have you ever looked up at the night sky, far from city lights, and just felt tiny, like a single grain of sand on an endless beach? That feeling, when you realize how vast everything is compared to you, that's what we mean by feeling small. It's not about being weak or unimportant. It's about a sudden shift in perspective, where your everyday worries shrink a little against the huge backdrop of the world, or even the universe. For thousands of years, people have felt this way. Ancient stargazers, like those in Greece or Egypt, watched the planets move and wondered about the immense distances. They knew Earth was just one small part of something much, much bigger. Philosophers, people who thought deeply about life, often talked about how we fit into the natural world. They believed understanding our size, our place, could actually make us feel more connected, not less. It teaches us humility, a quiet knowing that we are part of something magnificent and grand. Think about it like this. Imagine you're at a huge concert, standing in the middle of a roaring crowd. At first, you might feel lost, just one face among thousands. But then, you start to feel the energy of the music, the shared excitement, the way everyone is singing along to the same song. Suddenly, being small in that crowd doesn't feel lonely. It feels like being part of something powerful and shared. You're connected to everyone around you by that common experience. So, when we feel small, maybe staring at the stars, or just thinking about how much there is to learn, it can actually open us up. It can remind us that our problems, while real, are part of a larger story. And being a small part of something immense can feel less like being insignificant and more like being a tiny, perfect piece of a giant, beautiful puzzle. The email I shouldn't have sent. If you ever hit send on an email or a text, and then wished you could take it back? That, knot in your stomach, the sudden chill of regret, it's a feeling many of us know. It's like you've walked straight into a dead end, a path you didn't mean to take. But here's the thing about those moments of instant regret. They aren't always just dead ends. Sometimes, they're actually hidden doorways. Long ago, thinkers like the Stoics didn't avoid mistakes or tough times. They believed that challenges, even our own errors, were like a secret school. They saw them as chances to grow stronger, to understand ourselves, and to learn about the world. For them, a bad choice wasn't just a failure. It was an unexpected teacher, guiding them toward wisdom. It sounds strange, but even things that sting can help us grow. Think about a time you got upset and sent a message you shouldn't have. Maybe it was to a friend or a teacher, words you didn't truly mean. The moment after, a wave of shame or fear washes over you. You think, oh no, I messed up everything. But that uncomfortable feeling, that's where the lesson often starts. Maybe it makes you think about why you are angry, or how your words affect others. This mess up can push you to apologize, or to think twice next time. It forces you to pause and reflect on your actions, and on who you want to be. So, while we all want to avoid sending that email we regret, or making that quick, bad choice, remember this. Sometimes the path we shouldn't have taken leads us to a deeper understanding. It's not about making mistakes on purpose, but about seeing the quiet, slow growth that can bloom even in moments of regret. Those dead ends can be the start of a new kind of wisdom, a soft light showing us how to be a little kinder, a little wiser. Next time, my drawing that just wasn't right. Have you ever poured your heart into something, like a drawing you really wanted to be perfect, only for it to feel off? You stare at it, wondering what's wrong. Maybe it's a tree, and the branches just don't curve the way they should. Or a face, and the eyes don't quite show the feeling you imagined. You try to fix it, erasing lines, redrawing, but it still doesn't click. It just feels stiff or untrue to what you saw in your mind. This moment, when something just isn't right, can feel like a complete dead end for your creativity. But here's the thing. That feeling isn't a failure. It's a whisper, a gentle push telling you to look closer. Think about it, like the great inventors of the past. Someone like Thomas Edison, when he was trying to invent the light bulb, had to try thousands of different materials for the filament before he found one that worked. He didn't see those thousands of attempts as failures. He saw them as learning what didn't work. Each wrong step was a piece of information, a clue that got him closer to the right answer. His dead ends were just steps on a much longer path to enlightenment. It's like when you're building something with Legos, you might follow the instructions piece by piece, but then you look at your creation and it just doesn't look like the picture. Maybe a whole section feels wobbly, or the colors are mixed up. Instead of just forcing it, you have to stop. You have to take apart that section, piece by careful piece. As you dismantle it, you might suddenly see where you made a mistake, or even get an idea for a better way to build it. That moment of things not being right gives you the chance to see with new eyes. It shows you what needs to change, not just in the drawing, but sometimes in your way of thinking or seeing. So, when you're drawing, or anything you're working on, just isn't right, remember this: it's not a sign to give up. It's an invitation. It's a chance to pause, to listen to that quiet feeling in your gut, and to discover the unexpected path that was hidden within that moment of confusion. It's a path that leads to a deeper understanding, making your final creation, or even just your next attempt, so much more authentic and true. Being left alone at lunch. Have you ever found yourself sitting alone at lunch? Maybe your friends are absent, or busy with someone else, or you just don't have anyone right then. That feeling, that quiet moment, can sometimes feel like a dead end, like the path just stops and you're stranded. But what if that quiet isn't an ending? What if it's a new kind of beginning? For a very long time, thinkers and artists have known this secret. People like Henry David Thoreau, who went to live by a pond in the woods, or even ancient monks who spent many hours in silence. They weren't just lonely, they were choosing to be alone. They found that these moments of quiet, of being with just their own thoughts, were incredibly powerful. They didn't see it as a problem, but as a chance to truly see things. They found deep insights when they stepped away from the noise. Here's how it works. Think about a seed. It needs to be planted, alone in the soil to grow strong. It doesn't sprout well if it's too crowded. Or imagine you're trying to solve a tricky math problem. Sometimes, the best way to figure it out isn't by talking with everyone, but by sitting quietly with your pencil and paper, letting your own brain work things out without distractions. This can help you see a solution you couldn't find before. So, the next time you find yourself alone at lunch, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't worry about what others might think. Instead, try to notice the quiet. Use that time to just be with yourself. Maybe you'll notice something new about the world around you, or about your own thoughts. Perhaps you'll get a great idea for a story, or a solution to a problem you've been pondering. And that's why it matters. Being left alone, sometimes, is exactly what we need to hear our own quiet wisdom. It's a chance to grow in ways you never expected, right there in the middle of a busy day. The book I couldn't finish. Have you ever started a book, a game, or even a drawing, and just couldn't finish it? It sits there, unfinished, a quiet challenge you couldn't meet. Maybe you felt a little guilty. But here's the thing. Sometimes, not finishing something isn't a sign of failure. It can be a deep, important lesson. Think about the old thinkers, like philosophers in ancient Greece. They explored big questions about life. They wrote ideas and often hit dead ends. A problem wouldn't make sense, no matter how hard they tried. Instead of forcing it, they sometimes chose to step away. They might walk in a garden, clear their mind. Often, a new thought would come, or they'd see the problem differently, or they'd realize that question wasn't the right path for them. Then, they weren't giving up. They were finding a new direction. It's like when you're building something with Legos, and a section just won't connect right. You push, you twist, but it doesn't fit. You could keep forcing it, maybe even break a piece. Or, you could pause. You step back, look at the instructions, or even just look at the pieces in your hand. Maybe you realize you're using the wrong block. Or perhaps you decide to build a totally different spaceship instead. Stepping away isn't quitting. It's seeing the situation with fresh eyes. So, the unfinished book on your shelf, or that half-done project isn't a mark of defeat. It's a quiet whisper from your inner self. It's saying, this isn't serving you right now. It teaches you about patience, about knowing your limits, and about listening to your own wisdom. Sometimes, the true path to understanding isn't about pushing through every single challenge, but knowing when to close one chapter, for now, and wisely begin another. That choice, that pause, can be its own kind of enlightenment. My big idea went nowhere. Have you ever worked so hard on something, only for it to just stop? Like you poured your heart into a project, a dream, and then it just fizzled out. That feeling, when your big idea goes absolutely nowhere, can be crushing. It feels like a dead end. You imagined a grand path, but then you hit a wall. All that effort, all that hope, seems to vanish. It's a quiet kind of heartbreak, isn't it? The silence where a triumph should have been. For centuries, people have felt this. Thinkers, artists, scientists, they all had moments where their most brilliant thoughts crashed. Thomas Edison, for instance, had thousands of failures trying to invent the light bulb. He didn't see them as failures, though. He saw them as finding ways that wouldn't work. Each dead end taught him something vital. It showed him where not to go, and that's why it matters. Imagine you're planning the perfect group project for school. You have this amazing concept. You map out every step, maybe even draw diagrams. You're so excited, but then it just doesn't come together. Your teammates don't get it, or the materials don't work. The project falls apart. Your big idea, so grand in your mind, goes nowhere. It feels like a waste of time, doesn't it? But here's the thing, that nowhere isn't always empty. It's often a space where new seeds can grow. When one path closes, you're forced to look around, to find another way. You learn what doesn't work. You learn about your own resilience. You might discover a better idea, or even a deeper understanding of yourself. So, sometimes, the end of one big idea is just the beginning of a wiser one. It's a quiet turning point, moving you not backward, but somewhere else entirely. And that's enlightenment, in its own way. A friend moved away. Have you ever felt that quiet ache when a friend moved far away? It's like a path you used to walk together suddenly ends. One day, they're there, laughing beside you. The next, their room is empty, their seat in class free. This can feel like a dead end, a part of your life closed off. The regular calls, the easy meetups, the inside jokes, they all change. That empty space where their presence used to be can feel big and confusing. But here's the thing, across time, people have faced these goodbyes. Ancient thinkers, like the Greek philosopher Heraclitus, talked about how change is the only constant. He believed everything flows, like a river you can never step into twice. This doesn't mean sadness isn't real. It means even in loss, there's movement. It's like life itself is always rearranging its pieces, often to make space for something new, even if we can't see it yet. These moments, even sad ones, have always been turning points for people to discover strength they didn't know they had. Think about a tree in autumn. Its leaves, once green and full of life, turn beautiful colors, then fall away. It looks like a loss, right? The tree seems bare, empty, but that falling isn't a true ending. It's part of a cycle. The tree needs to shed those leaves so it can gather energy for new growth in spring. Those old leaves enrich the soil, making it ready for new life. Your friendships are a bit like that. When one chapter closes, it doesn't mean the story is over. It might just be making room for new parts of yourself to grow, new interests, or even new connections. So, while the silence where a friend used to be can feel heavy, it also creates an unexpected quiet. In that quiet, you might hear new thoughts, find new courage to explore things on your own, or reach out to other people you hadn't noticed before. This dead end of a friendship moving away isn't just an empty space. It's a space ready for something else to bloom, a new path forming right where the old one seemed to stop. It's a chance for self-discovery, quiet but strong. The rain on my parade. Have you ever planned something perfectly, felt truly ready, and then, out of nowhere, something went wrong? Like a big storm cloud appearing just as you were about to start a picnic, or a sudden illness stopping you from a big game. We call that rain on your parade, and it feels like everything is ruined, right? But here's the thing, sometimes those moments when life throws a wrench in our plans aren't meant to stop us. Instead, they can be the very things that push us towards a different, maybe even better, path. Think about it. For ages, people have believed that tough times can actually make us stronger or wiser. Old wisdom often tells us that when things go wrong, we can't always control the event, but we can choose how we react. Our minds work in a similar way. When plans fall apart, it can force us to think differently, get creative, or just pause and see things from a new angle. Imagine you've been practicing for weeks for a big presentation in class. The morning comes, and you wake up with a sore throat, unable to speak. Your parade is definitely rained on. You feel really let down. But since you can't present, you spend the day listening to other presentations, taking notes. Maybe you realize practicing alone wasn't enough, and you try new study methods. Or perhaps, because you had to rest, you picked up a book that sparked a totally new interest. That setback wasn't the end. It was a surprising shift. So, while it hurts when our perfect plans get messy, those moments of rain often clear the air. They let us see new paths we never would have noticed before. Sometimes, the biggest lessons, the clearest understandings, don't come from smooth journeys, but from the detours and the storms. It reminds us that even when things feel like they're falling apart, they might just be falling into place. When I stumbled on stage, have you ever had a moment, maybe in front of a whole group, where everything just went wrong? Like, really wrong. Maybe you forgot your lines in a play, or tripped walking up the stairs at school. You felt that hot wave of embarrassment. Right, it feels like the end, doesn't it? Like you've hit a dead end, right there in the spotlight. But here's the thing, sometimes, those stumbles, those moments we wish we could erase, are exactly what we need. They're not just about falling, they're about what happens after the fall. For a long time, thinkers have discussed this idea. The ancient Stoics, for example, believed problems aren't just things to avoid. Instead, they're chances to grow stronger. They argued that facing a challenge, even if you fail at first, teaches you more than never trying. It's like when scientists try hundreds of experiments, and most don't work. But those failed tests aren't wasted. They teach what not to do, helping them find the answer. Think about building a tall tower with LEDs. You try different ways, and it keeps falling. Each crash teaches you something new about balance, or which pieces are strongest. You might get frustrated, but that frustration can push you to try a totally new design. That's not a dead end, it's a redirection. So, the next time you stumble, literally or figuratively, take a deep breath. That awkward moment, that mistake, might not be an ending. It could be the start of something truly important. Maybe it's a chance to learn patience, or courage, or to see a path you never noticed before. Sometimes, insight isn't found by walking perfectly, but by picking yourself up after a fall and seeing the world with new eyes. Trying to please everyone. Have you ever felt like you were walking on eggshells, trying to make everyone around you happy? It's like being a chameleon, changing your colors to fit every background. We've all been there, trying to say the right thing, wear the right clothes, or act a certain way, just so people will like us. But here's the thing, when we try to please everyone, we often lose a piece of ourselves. This isn't a new idea. Long ago, people thought deeply about how we fit into the world. Thinkers from ancient Greece to distant Eastern lands talked about finding your true self, your own path. They knew that if you only live for others' approval, you might never truly know who you are. It's like trying to build a house without a clear vision, ending up with something shapeless. Think about a time you worked on a group project for school. Maybe one friend wanted the presentation to be super colorful, another wanted it full of facts, and a third just wanted to get it done fast. If you tried to make everyone perfectly happy, you probably ended up with a project that felt messy, or maybe even one you weren't proud of. You might have felt pulled in too many directions, unsure of your own ideas. It's tiring, isn't it? Our brains want connection, so wanting to belong makes sense. But sometimes, that desire can trick us into thinking we need universal approval. It's a dead end, because true happiness doesn't come from outside, but from within. The enlightenment here is realizing your value isn't based on how many people like you, or fitting every mold perfectly. It's about accepting your own unique shape, your own quiet song. You are enough, just as you are. And that quiet knowing, that deep acceptance, is a kind of freedom. The mirror that lied. Have you ever looked at something and been so sure of what you saw, only to find out later it wasn't true at all? It's a strange feeling, like the world played a trick. Sometimes, what we think we know about ourselves, or how things work, can be like looking into a mirror that shows a reflection that isn't quite right. It's not trying to trick us, but it only shows one part, or a twisted version. This kind of lie is a dead end for our understanding. For a long time, people believed the earth was flat. They looked at the vast, endless ocean, which seemed flat. Their everyday mirror showed them a flat horizon. It made perfect sense from what they could see. But then, brave thinkers dared to question that reflection. Sailors ventured further. Observations became more precise, and slowly, the truth emerged. The earth was round. The mirror had lied, not from malice, but because our perspective was limited. Think about a time you felt bad at something, like drawing or playing a sport. Maybe you tried once, and it didn't go well, or you saw someone else do it perfectly. That feeling, that belief about yourself, can be like a mirror showing you a person who isn't good at that thing. It's a quiet lie your mind tells you, often based on a single moment or quick comparison. But then, maybe you tried again, practiced, or found a new way to learn. Suddenly, that mirror shows you something else, someone who can improve, who can surprise themselves. These mirrors that lied aren't roadblocks. Instead, they are quiet invitations. They ask us to gently question what we see, what we believe. They whisper, is this truly the whole picture? When we choose to look closer, try a different angle, or simply pause and think, we often discover a deeper, more honest truth. In that discovery, a new path opens, leading us from misunderstanding into a clearer understanding of who we are and the world we live in. A day full of no. Have you ever had one of those days where it feels like every door is shut, every path blocked, like you try something, and the answer is just a solid, unmoving no? Maybe you wanted to hang out with friends, and everyone was busy, or you spent hours on a drawing, only for it to tear. It feels heavy, doesn't it? Like a small cloud settling over your heart. But what if those no moments aren't really dead ends at all? Here's the thing. Sometimes, no isn't a final stop. It's more like a quiet whisper, guiding you to look somewhere else, to try something new. Think about how people have learned. Throughout history, great thinkers and creators, long ago and today, didn't just wake up with all the answers. They tried ideas that failed. They faced rejection. Imagine an ancient inventor trying to lift water with a simple machine, failing again and again. Each time the contraption didn't work, it told them something important about physics, about what materials held up, or how much force was needed. Each no was a step closer to understanding how things did work. It wasn't about being wrong. It was about discovering another truth. This can help you understand everyday life, too. Remember a time you were building a tower out of blocks. You stack them up, and it wobbles, then falls down. No, the blocks seem to say, you try again, maybe a different base, or fewer blocks. It collapses again. No, but each fall teaches you something. The weight was off, or the foundation wasn't wide enough. Those failures, those no's, slowly teach you about balance and structure. You learn not from success, but from the quiet lessons failure offers. Eventually, you build a tower that stands strong, because you've learned from every collapse. So, when a day feels full of no, remember that each closed door might be pointing to an open window you hadn't even noticed. It's not about giving up, but about truly seeing what these moments can teach. Those quiet no's can build something powerful inside you. Resilience, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of the world, and yourself. And that's why it matters. These moments, initially heavy, can be quiet guides toward new paths and unexpected enlightenment. My screen time meltdown. Have you ever looked at your phone, scrolling and scrolling, feeling more tired than when you started? It's like searching for something important, but all you find is more noise. For a while, my own screen time became a giant wall, a dead end blocking everything else out. It wasn't just about looking at a screen. It was about feeling completely overwhelmed, like my brain was too full to think clearly. Sometimes, we chase more information, more entertainment, thinking it will make us feel better or smarter. But what happens when more just becomes too much? Imagine your mind is a quiet lake. When you constantly throw stones into it, all those videos, social media posts, games, the water gets choppy and murky. You can't see the bottom. Anymore, you can't even see your own reflection. This isn't a new idea. Ancient thinkers, long before screens existed, understood that true wisdom often comes from quiet, from stepping away from the endless chatter of the world and listening to your own thoughts. They knew that constant input, even from conversations or books, could drown out inner peace. One evening, after hours of staring at a glowing rectangle, I felt a heavy fog in my head. My eyes ached, and my patience was gone. Everything felt blurry, like trying to see through a dirty window. It was a meltdown, not with tears or yelling, but a quiet, internal one. My brain just hit a wall. It was then I realized that this digital overload wasn't helping me learn or connect. It was doing the opposite. It was a dead end that left me feeling lost and disconnected, even from myself. Stepping away from the screen, closing my eyes, and just breathing, slowly the water in that imaginary lake began to still. The murkiness faded. It taught me that sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply stop, to find the quiet in the chaos, to let our own thoughts finally have a voice. That's where clarity begins to emerge. The recipe that burned. Have you ever been in the kitchen, following a recipe, only for something to go totally wrong? Maybe your cookies turned into black pucks, or a planned dinner dish ended up as a smoky, burnt mess. It's a real disappointment, isn't it? All that effort and hope, then failure stares back. But what if that moment, that ruined smell, actually opened a hidden door? What if the very act of burning it taught you something crucial you couldn't have learned any other way? Here's the thing about the recipe that burned. It's a quiet metaphor for life. Sometimes, when our careful plans fall apart, when what we aimed for turns into a charred mess, new understanding can rise from the ashes. Think about history. Many great discoveries weren't planned at all. Often, inventors working on one thing would make a mistake and suddenly see something entirely new. Like a glassblower centuries ago, trying to make a perfect vase, accidentally overheats the mixture. Instead, they discover a new, unusual, iridescent glass. They weren't trying to invent that, but the burn led them to it. Imagine building a complex Lego structure. You follow instructions, but a piece snaps, or a section collapses. It feels like your project is burning. You might want to give up, but in that failure, you might try a different approach. You might invent a new, stronger way to connect the bricks, or find a hidden flaw in the original design. That broken piece, that collapse, forces you to think differently. It makes you a more creative builder, someone who truly understands how things fit together, not just how to follow a guide. So, when something in your own life feels completely burned, a big school project, a friendship that went sour, a goal that didn't work out, take a deep breath. Look closely at what's left. That messy disappointment isn't just an end. Often, it's a difficult, unexpected beginning to something else. It's a chance to learn a deeper truth about yourself or the world. The most profound lessons, the ones that truly light our way forward, can sometimes emerge from the very places we thought were ruined by smoke. Feeling out of place. Have you ever felt like a puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit? Maybe you're new somewhere, or with a group where you just feel different. That quiet sense of not belonging. That's what we call feeling out of place. It's a heavy, confusing feeling, like being a shadow in a bright room. It's when your inside self feels different from what's around you. You look around, and everyone else seems okay. But inside, you feel a little lost. This can happen anywhere, at home, with friends, even walking down the street. It's not about being wrong, it's about feeling mismatched. Think about old thinkers like Plato. He had this idea: our world is just an imperfect copy of perfect things. So everything here might feel a little out of place compared to its ideal self. Many artists and writers felt this way too. They saw the world differently. Because of that feeling, they made amazing art or wrote powerful stories. This shows that feeling different can lead to something special. Imagine you're a red Lego brick in a bucket of blue ones. You're still a Lego, useful even, but you stand out. You might wonder why you're red. But what if being red lets you build something no one else could? What if that out-of-place color makes a pattern more interesting? So, if you ever feel this way, remember it's common. It can be uncomfortable, yes, but here's the thing. Maybe that feeling isn't a dead end. Instead, it might be a quiet invitation. It could be your unique self trying to show you a different path. And sometimes, being the out-of-place one means you're meant to start something new, something beautiful. My first big disappointment. Have you ever felt that quiet, sinking feeling when something you truly hoped for, something you poured your heart into, just didn't happen? That's disappointment. It's not just feeling sad. It's like a quiet shock, a moment when the world doesn't quite match the perfect picture in your mind. Here's the thing, everyone, everywhere, has felt this. Imagine ancient farmers watching their crops wither under a sun that wouldn't give rain, or old philosophers trying to understand why life often took such unexpected, sometimes painful, turns. They learned that even with all our effort, things sometimes fall apart. They began to see that accepting what we cannot change and finding peace in that is a powerful kind of wisdom. Think about a time you worked really, really hard on something. Maybe you spent hours sketching a comic book character, trying to get the expression just right, imagining the finished masterpiece. You meticulously added details, erased and redrew, convinced it would be perfect. But then, you step back, and the eyes look wrong, the pose is stiff, or it just doesn't capture the life you imagined. That sharp sting in your chest, that's disappointment. It's your inner self telling you that the beautiful dream you held, for it didn't quite become real. This feeling, while it can sting and make you want to give up, is never truly an ending. It's more like a quiet guide. When that drawing didn't turn out, perhaps it taught you about perspective, or about the patience needed for the next attempt. So, disappointment isn't about being a failure. It's a gentle, often unseen teacher. It shows us the shape of our deepest hopes, and it softly nudges us to explore a different approach, or to accept that some paths simply conclude, and that's truly okay. Because when one path reaches its end, another path always begins, often leading somewhere new and surprisingly wonderful, a place you never even imagined. The unsent text message. Have you ever typed out a whole text message, your fingers flying across the screen, only to stop? You read it once, then maybe a second time, and then you just deleted it. It's like a conversation that never happened, words that vanished into thin air. Here's the thing, that moment of not sending, that choice to let the words go unread, can be a really powerful kind of dead end. It's a road you decided not to take, but sometimes those unchosen paths are exactly where true understanding begins. Instead of hitting send and maybe causing more problems, you chose silence. You chose a different kind of action, reflection. For a long time, across many different cultures, people have talked about the power of pausing. Think about old proverbs or stories where someone holds their tongue or waits before making a big decision. They understood that often the first thought isn't always the wisest. Sometimes it's about letting the dust settle in your mind before you speak or act. It's about giving yourself space to really think. Imagine that text was written in anger or frustration. Maybe you wanted to say something you knew you'd regret later. By choosing not to send it, you avoided a fight, or spared someone's feelings, or even protected your own. That quiet pause, that moment of deleting, allowed you to see the situation with fresh eyes. You might have found a calmer way to talk about it, or realized the issue wasn't as big as it seemed. That unsent message stopped a chain reaction, and gave you a chance to reset. So, what does this tell us? It shows us that sometimes enlightenment isn't about finding a new answer, but about letting go of an old impulse. It's about the wisdom that comes from what we don't do, from the noise we decide not to add to the world. And that's why it matters. The paths we choose not to walk can teach us just as much as the ones we do, especially when those paths lead to inner peace. That time I got lost online. Have you ever clicked on a link, then another, and another, until you looked up and realized hours had passed? It's a strange feeling, like you've been on a quiet journey without even moving. It's not being lost in a scary way. It's more like your mind just floated, discovering new places it never meant to visit. Here's the thing, people have always done this, even long before the internet. Think about someone in an old library. They might pull out one book, then see another title that looks interesting, and just follow that new path. Or imagine ancient thinkers. They sometimes let their thoughts just drift, not trying to force an answer. Instead, they let ideas connect on their own. This kind of accidental finding of something cool actually has a name. It's called serendipity. It means you find something great when you weren't even looking for it. It's like a quiet whisper telling you, look over here. It's a bit like when you're drawing. You start with one idea for your picture, but then your hand just takes you somewhere else. Maybe you add a detail you didn't plan, or you color outside the lines in a new, cool way. You create something you didn't plan, and sometimes that unplanned thing turns out to be the very best part of the whole drawing. It feels like magic, but it's really just being open to discovery. So, Being lost online, in this special way, isn't really lost at all. It's actually about finding. It's a quiet journey where you let curiosity lead you. It reminds us that the most important lessons aren't always written down in a textbook or given to you with a clear purpose. Sometimes, they are found when you simply allow your mind to wander a little, seeing where it takes you. When my hopes got crushed, have you ever felt that hollow ache, deep inside, when something you truly wanted just vanished? When a dream you held so close, like a precious bird, suddenly flew away, or worse, just crumbled. That feeling, that moment when your hopes get crushed, is not just sadness, it's a complete stop, a dead end. But here's the thing about those crushed hopes. They often clear the ground for something new. It's like a forest after a big fire, scary and destructive, right? But then the soil becomes richer, and new life sprouts stronger. What feels like the absolute end can sometimes be a secret beginning. It forces us to look for another way, a different path we never even knew existed. Think about people long ago. Ancient thinkers often talked about learning most when things are hard. They believed that when life pushes back, when your plans fall apart, that's when you truly start to think, to question, and to find what you're really made of. It's not about giving up. It's about discovering strength you didn't know you had. Imagine you're building an amazing, complex Lego castle. You've spent hours. Then, accidentally, maybe your little brother knocks it over, and it all just shatters. Your hope for that castle is crushed. But what happens next? You don't stop building forever. Maybe you pick up the pieces. This time, you build something even cooler, or stronger, or totally different. You learned how to make it better, or perhaps found a new way to enjoy building. So, when your hopes get crushed, it's okay to feel the pain. But remember, that moment isn't just an ending. It can be a quiet invitation. An invitation to pause, to look around, and to see if maybe, just maybe, the real path, the one meant for you, is waiting just beyond that dead end. A friendship changing shape. Have you ever thought about how friendships shift, like the seasons, or clouds moving across the sky? Sometimes, a really close connection, one you thought would stay the same forever, starts to feel different. It's not that the friendship ends, not really. Instead, it begins to change its shape, like a river finding a new path around a stone. This can feel like a dead end, like something is lost. But here's the thing, often it's just the beginning of something new. For a long time, people have known that everything in life is always flowing, always becoming something else. Ancient thinkers, watching the world around them, noticed that nothing stays exactly the same. They understood that even something as strong as a mountain changes over millions of years, little by little. And that's true for the people we care about, too. Our friendships aren't fixed statues. They are living things that breathe and grow. With us, think about a friendship you had when you were much younger. Maybe in elementary school, you and a friend spent every recess playing the same game, talking about the same cartoons. Now, in 8th grade, maybe one of you loves sports, and the other is really into coding, or art. You might not share every interest anymore, and that's okay. The way you connect changes. You might not spend every moment together, but the history you share, the understanding you have, it doesn't disappear. It just takes on a new form. Maybe you become friends who share deeper talks less often, or someone you check in with, offering support even from a distance. So, when a friendship feels like it's taking a turn, or even like it's hitting a wall, remember, it might just be reshaping itself. It's not always about a goodbye, but about discovering a new kind of hello. It's about accepting that growth is natural, and sometimes, that means our connections find different ways to bloom. It shows us that even what looks like an ending can truly be a gentle path to a new, unexpected understanding. The fear of speaking up. Have you ever held words inside, words that felt important, but they just couldn't quite make it out? It's a common feeling, this heavy knot in your stomach, a lump in your throat, when you want to speak your truth, but something holds you back. This is the fear of speaking up. It's not just shyness. It's a quiet, powerful force that makes us worry about what others will think, or if we'll sound silly, or even if we'll make a mistake. It feels like a dead end, doesn't it? A road inside your mind where your thoughts get stuck. For a long time, people have felt this. Thinkers and philosophers, way back in ancient times, often faced huge risks just to share a new idea. Imagine saying the earth spins around the sun when everyone believed the opposite. It wasn't just scary, It could be dangerous. They knew the value of their voice, but the world wasn't always ready to hear it. This fear is old as our need to belong. We want to connect, but we also fear standing out too much. Here's the thing. Holding back your words is a bit like keeping a seed in the dark. A seed has so much potential. It holds the blueprint for a beautiful plant or a towering tree. But if it stays hidden in its own small, dark space, it can never grow. It can never reach for the sun or show its colors to the world. Your ideas, your feelings, your unique thoughts are like those seeds. They need light, they need air, they need to be planted in the open to truly become something. So when we finally push past that fear, when we let those words out, it's not just speaking, it's an act of growth. It's like breaking through a wall you didn't even know was there. Suddenly, the light pours in, and you realize your voice can connect with others, spark new ideas, or just make you feel lighter. Speaking up can be the first step on a new path, turning a moment of silence into a moment of true understanding and enlightenment. It's about letting your inner light shine. My pet project collapsed. Have you ever poured your heart into something, working on it day after day, only for it to just stop, like a hidden switch flipped, and all the energy drained away, leaving behind a silence where your passion used to be? That's what it feels like when a pet project collapses. It's not always a sudden explosion. Sometimes it's a slow fade, a quiet crumbling of something you truly believed in. Here's the thing. This isn't about failing at something simple. This is about those big ideas, those dreams you nurture, like a secret garden in your mind. And when they fall apart, it can feel like a part of you goes with them. Throughout history, many brilliant minds have faced this. Think about ancient philosophers who spent years developing a theory, only for new discoveries to show them a different path, or inventors like those who tried to build flying machines for centuries. Most of their ideas didn't fly, literally, but each collapsed attempt taught them something vital about the wind, about materials, about what wouldn't work. It's like when you're building a really complex model airplane. You follow the instructions carefully, glue every piece, paint it just right, you imagine it soaring. But then, you add a wing, and the whole thing just crumbles. Maybe the glue wasn't right, or a piece was bent, or you just pushed too hard. In that moment, it feels awful. All that effort, wasted. But then, you look at the broken pieces, you see why it collapsed. Maybe you notice a weak joint, or understand that a certain part needs more support, and that's the wisdom here. When your pet project collapses, it's not just a sad ending. It's an empty space, a cleared field, ready for new seeds. It's a chance to see the broken bits and learn what not to do next time. It's a quiet lesson that teaches you about resilience, about starting fresh, and about finding unexpected beauty in the wreckage. It shows you what you're truly made of. The day I ran out of ideas, have you ever felt like your brain was just empty? Like you'd thought every thought, tried every angle, and there was nothing left? That feeling, when your well of ideas seems completely dry, can be scary. We often call it a dead end. But here's the thing. Sometimes, running out of ideas isn't an end at all. It's like your mind clearing out the old stuff, making room for something brand new. Think about inventors, or writers, or even scientists from long ago. They didn't always have a clear path. Isaac Newton, for example, didn't just discover gravity on the first try. He had to think and rethink, facing many moments where the answers just weren't there. It's in those quiet, empty spaces that new connections often appear. For centuries, thinkers have talked about how confusion often comes before a big new idea. It's like the universe pressing reset on your mind. Imagine you're trying to build something with Legos and you run out of the right pieces. You've tried every block you have, and it just won't work. For a moment, you might feel totally stuck. But then, because you can't use the old pieces, you start looking at your remaining blocks differently. Maybe you turn one upside down, or combine two in a way you never considered. Suddenly, a whole new design shows up, better than what you planned before. That empty feeling forced your brain to try a different path. So, the next time you feel like you've hit a wall, like you've run out of options, don't be afraid. That quiet space, that moment of emptiness, isn't a failure. It might just be the quiet before a new, brilliant idea steps into the light. It's a reminder that sometimes, clarity is found not by pushing harder, but by letting go and allowing something fresh to emerge. Learning a hard lesson, have you ever felt completely stuck? Like you've hit a wall and there's just no way forward? Maybe you made a big mistake, or something just didn't work out, no matter how hard you tried. This feeling, this moment of being utterly lost or having messed up, can feel like a dead end. But here's the thing. Sometimes, these very moments are where the deepest learning happens. It's not just about getting back on track. It's about discovering a different path you never knew existed. A truly hard lesson isn't just about pain. It's a silent teacher, showing you what you need to know, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. For centuries, wise people have talked about this. Think of ancient philosophers, even brave explorers. They understood that mistakes weren't just failures, they were crucial steps. Many believed that real wisdom wasn't gained from easy answers, but from wrestling with difficult questions and finding out what didn't work. It's like how a scientist learns so much from an experiment that fails to produce the expected result. They don't just throw it away. Instead, they study the failure to understand why, and often, a new, unexpected discovery is made. This process, learning from what went wrong, has shaped so much of human knowledge. Picture learning to play a complex song on an instrument. Your fingers might fumble. You hit wrong notes over and over. You feel frustrated, maybe even a little silly, but each time you hit that wrong note, your brain and your hands are quietly figuring out not to do that again. You're building muscle memory and a deeper understanding of the music, not just by playing it right, but by constantly correcting what went wrong. Or think about a chef learning a new recipe. They might burn it, or add too much salt. That hard lesson teaches them the balance, the heat, the timing. In a way, simply reading the recipe never could. So, when you face one of these tough moments, a personal mistake, a failed project, a setback, try to see it not as a finish line, but as a path, a difficult, winding path, for sure, but one that often leads to a new kind of strength, a clearer understanding, and a quiet sense of growth you wouldn't trade for anything. It helps shape who you are, making you more resilient and wise, and that's why it truly matters. My best laid plans fizzled. Have you ever poured your heart into a plan, maybe for a school project or a weekend adventure, only for it to fall apart? It's a gut punch, right? All that effort, all that hope, and it just fizzled out. It feels terrible, like a dead end. But here's the thing. Sometimes, when our careful plans don't work out, that's when something surprising can begin. It's not about failing, but finding a different path, one you never even considered. Think about old ideas, wisdom passed down through time. Long ago, thinkers in places like ancient Greece knew this feeling well. They understood life is full of twists. They believed the path we think is perfect isn't always the one we're meant to take. It's like the universe has a different idea, gently nudging us in a new direction. Take a scientist, for example. They set up an experiment, expecting a specific result. They follow every step perfectly, but sometimes the experiment just doesn't work. The chemicals don't react, or the data makes no sense. It feels like a flop. But then, they might notice something completely unexpected in the failed attempt. Maybe a weird mold growing in a dish, or a strange new color. Because their first plan fizzled, they were open to seeing something entirely new, something that led to a huge discovery. They never looked for . So, when your best laid plans fizzle, try to see it differently. Don't just feel the sting of disappointment. Instead, pause, look around. What new possibilities are showing up? What quiet nudge is the world giving you? Sometimes, that unexpected detour isn't a wrong turn. It's just the start of a journey you never planned, but one that might lead to something truly amazing. The roadblock I didn't see. Have you ever tried to walk forward, but felt like something was holding you back, even though nothing was physically there? It's a strange feeling, like running into a wall you can't see. Here's the thing. Sometimes, the biggest obstacles we face aren't out in the world, like a locked door or a high fence. Instead, they're invisible. They live inside our own minds. Ancient thinkers, like the Greek philosopher Socrates, talked about this kind of thing. He famously said something like, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." What he meant was, sometimes the biggest problem isn't just not knowing something, but thinking you already know it all, or thinking you understand something when you don't. That belief can become a wall. This isn't about being dumb. It's about being human. Think about trying to learn a new sport, maybe skateboarding. You might fall a lot. At first, You think the problem is the board, or the street, or just that you're not good enough. But what if the real roadblock isn't your balance, but your own fear of falling? Or a hidden belief that you'll never be as good as your friend? That fear, that quiet voice in your head, can stop you more effectively than any scraped knee. It's a mental block, not a physical one. And that's why it matters. Realizing these unseen roadblocks is a powerful kind of discovery. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Once you see the wall, even if it's made of your own thoughts or old fears, you can finally figure out how to step around it or find a way through. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about understanding that sometimes the path to enlightenment starts not by looking outward for answers, but by quietly looking inward, at the very place we live and breathe. It helps us grow. Feeling stuck in a loop. Have you ever found yourself doing the exact same thing, saying the same words, and getting the very same old result? Maybe you're arguing with a friend, and it always ends with the same hurt feelings. Or you're trying to learn a skill, and you keep making the same mistake, over and over again, feeling like you just can't break free. That feeling, that sense of endless repetition, is what it means to be stuck in a loop. It's not just a physical thing. It can happen in our minds too, with thoughts or worries that play on repeat. For a long, long time, people have wondered about these cycles. Ancient thinkers noticed how the sun rises and sets, how seasons come and go, in a kind of natural loop. But sometimes, in our own lives, a loop feels less like a comforting rhythm and more like a sticky trap. It's when our actions or thoughts get caught, like a skipping record, playing the same sound again and again. Wise people from history knew how our minds can get fixed on worries or old mistakes, running them through our heads without really getting anywhere new. Here's an example. You might know. Imagine you're trying to understand a super tough math problem. You try one method, it doesn't work. So you try it again and again, in the same way, expecting a different answer. It's frustrating, right? You're in a loop. You're doing the same thing, hoping for a miracle. Or maybe it's a bad habit, like putting off homework until the last minute, even though you know it will stress you out. You fall into that same pattern every time. But here's the quiet magic of feeling stuck. The moment you realize you're in a loop, you've already stepped halfway out. It's like hitting the pause button on that repeating scene. You're no longer just in the pattern, you're seeing the pattern. And seeing it is the very first flicker of new light. It's not about suddenly changing everything with a loud crash. It's about noticing, gently, that there's another way to hold that problem, another thought to think. That calm awareness, that quiet noticing, is where the path to true understanding begins. When I felt like giving up, have you ever worked on something so hard, poured so much effort into it, only to feel like you've hit a solid, unmoving wall? That feeling of frustration, when you just want to quit, to walk away and never look back. Maybe it was a tough math problem, a drawing that just wouldn't look right, or learning a new skill that felt impossible to master. Here's the thing about those moments. They can feel like the end, a dead end, but often they're actually a beginning dot. Think about it this way. When you feel like giving up, it often means your old ways of doing things, your usual ideas, aren't working anymore. It's like your brain is getting stuck in a rut. For centuries, thinkers and inventors have faced this. People like Thomas Edison, trying thousands of times to make a light bulb work, didn't see each failed attempt as a reason to quit. He saw them as finding another way that didn't work. And that's why it matters. That feeling of wanting to give up can push you to look at the problem from a totally new angle. Imagine you're trying to solve a super tricky maze. You try path after path, and each one leads you to a wall. You get tired, maybe a little angry, and think there's no way out. But then, just when you're about to quit, you stop pushing forward. You step back. You look at the maze from above, in your mind, and suddenly, you see a path you missed, a little opening hidden in plain sight. That feeling of defeat was actually your mind telling you to change your perspective, not your effort. So, when that heavy feeling of wanting to surrender washes over you, remember it. That moment of true frustration, of feeling completely stumped, can be a quiet signal. It's not telling you to stop, but to pause. It's an invitation to shift your mind, to find a new door in that seemingly solid wall. It's often right before a breakthrough, when a dead end truly turns into enlightenment. The heavy silence of doubts. Have you ever felt a deep quiet inside you? Not a peaceful quiet, but a heavy one. This is the silence of doubt. It can press down when we don't know what comes next, or when things we thought were true suddenly feel shaky. It's that moment you ask, am I sure about this? And the answer doesn't come easily. This quiet, this uncertainty, is a powerful space. People have wrestled with doubt for thousands of years. Even the smartest thinkers often started by questioning everything. They didn't just accept ideas, they poked at them, turned them over. They asked, how do I really know this is true? It's like building a strong house. You test the ground first. You dig deep to make sure the foundation is solid. If you don't doubt a bit, you might just build on sand. Here's what I found. Imagine you're working on a big puzzle. You've put pieces together, but then you get stuck. A whole section isn't making sense. You try one piece, it doesn't fit. You try another, still wrong. That feeling of this isn't working and I don't know how to finish, that's doubt. It's heavy, maybe a little frustrating. But here's the thing, it forces you to stop. You look at the picture again. You rethink your approach. Maybe you sort the pieces differently. You question your first plan. So, this heavy silence of doubt, it isn't always a bad thing. It's a signal. It's a quiet space that nudges us to pause, to look closer, to search for a deeper understanding. It might feel like a dead end, a moment where nothing makes sense. But often, it's just the quiet before a new idea, a new path, or a new piece of the puzzle finally clicks into place. This is where true learning often begins. My words came out wrong. Have you ever said something and immediately wished you could take it back? It's a strange feeling, isn't it? When your heart means one thing, your mind shapes another, but your mouth speaks something completely different. It's not just a small mistake. Sometimes, those misspoken words feel like a dead end. You see confusion or hurt in someone's eyes, and you realize, my words came out wrong. Think about ancient times. Socrates, a philosopher, often talked about knowing yourself. He believed understanding your thoughts, even messy ones, was important. He asked questions, even when answers got jumbled. Many old stories show characters struggling to say the right thing. They learn words have power, and that power can be tricky. Words are like living things, sometimes running off on their own, away from what you truly meant. Imagine explaining a cool game to a friend. You're excited, brain full of rules, but as you talk, you might skip a step, or use a wrong word, and suddenly your friend looks lost. Or you try to comfort someone, but accidentally say something that hurts them. It's like untangling a headphone cord. You pull one way, it gets tighter. Another try, and suddenly, it's worse. These moments aren't about being bad, they're about the disconnect between your inner world and the outer. How hard it can be to translate pure feeling into clear sounds. But here's the thing about those tangled words. They can teach us. Each time our words go astray, it's a chance to pause, to feel the discomfort, to ask, what did I mean to say? How can I be clearer next time? It's a quiet path to understanding how complicated communication is. It teaches us patience, not just with others, but with ourselves. And it reminds us that true understanding needs more than words. It needs a willingness to listen and to try again. A bridge I couldn't cross. Have you ever faced a moment where the path ahead just vanished? Like you were walking along, everything clear, and then suddenly, there was nothing but air where a bridge should have been. A wide, silent chasm, telling you, you can't go this way. That feeling, that moment of being completely stuck, facing a barrier that seems impossible to move past, that's what we call a dead end. But here's the thing, sometimes, not being able to cross that specific bridge is exactly where a new kind of understanding begins. For ages, people have felt this deep frustration. Thinkers like the Stoics in ancient Greece often talked about facing things you simply cannot change. They believed strength wasn't about forcing your way across a broken bridge. Instead, it was about realizing when a path truly is closed. It's about accepting that some doors won't open, no matter how hard you push. And that acceptance, though it feels like a defeat at first, can actually clear your mind. It's not about giving up on your journey, but about letting go of that one specific route asterisk. Imagine you're trying to solve a really tricky puzzle. You try the same few moves over and over. It feels like hitting a wall, a bridge you just can't get across. You might feel totally stuck. But then, maybe you step away for a bit, take a breath. When you come back, or talk it over with someone, a new idea sparks. You look at the puzzle from a different angle. Suddenly, what seemed like an uncrossable gap becomes a solvable challenge just by finding a different way around. What looked like a failure became a chance to be creative and solve the problem in a way you hadn't thought of before. This is the quiet truth. When a bridge I couldn't cross turns into a moment of enlightenment, it gently shows us that being truly wise isn't always about pushing harder in the same direction. Sometimes it's about pausing, breathing, and letting our minds slowly consider other possibilities. It's about seeing that the path forward isn't always straight or obvious, and sometimes the very best way to keep moving is to look for a completely different route, or even to invent one. It reminds us that when one door closes, the entire world isn't locked away. There are always other hidden paths waiting to be found, if we just allow ourselves to truly see them. The truth that hurt. Have you ever had a moment where something clicked, but it also stung? A truth so clear, so real, that it felt like a quiet ache, even as it made everything else make sense. This is the truth that hurts. It's not about being mean or sad. It's about facing something deep down that shifts how you see the world, or yourself. And that shift can be uncomfortable. Think about people long ago who believed the earth was flat. It was their truth. But curious thinkers looked closer. They watched ships disappear over the horizon. They studied stars. Slowly, the truth emerged. The earth was round. This new idea must have hurt. It shattered old beliefs. It meant everything they knew had to shift. Scary, yes, but also a moment of huge learning, a real enlightenment. Here's the thing. Often the truths that hurt most are the ones we tell ourselves. Maybe you got a tough test result, and deep down, you knew you hadn't truly tried your best. Or a friendship ended, and you had to admit your own part in it. It's easier to blame others or make excuses. But when you finally look at your own actions, truly, honestly, that can be a hard moment. It stings because it means taking responsibility. It means letting go of a comfortable lie. But here's what happens when you let that truth in. That sting isn't an ending. It's a beginning. It's like a plant's roots pushing through tough soil. It takes effort, a struggle, but it's how the plant grows stronger, reaching for light. These hurting truths clear a path. They show us what's real, helping us to see clearly. They don't break us. They gently make us new. They help us become wiser, one honest, brave moment at a time. When I needed help but didn't ask, have you ever been stuck? Really stuck? Like you're trying to figure out a tough problem in your head. Or maybe you're building something complicated and it just isn't working. You feel this tight knot of frustration, but instead of reaching out, you just don't. You tell yourself, I should be able to do this alone. That quiet struggle, that feeling of needing a hand, but keeping it to yourself, is a dead end many of us visit. It's a strange thing, isn't it? We often think asking for help means we're weak or not smart enough. But here's the thing. For centuries, humans have learned and grown by sharing. Think about the first stories ever told, passed down around campfires. Knowledge wasn't just found alone in the wilderness. It was shared, discussed, built upon by many minds. The ancient Greek thinkers, even the wisest ones, had students and fellow philosophers. They knew that understanding deepened when ideas bounced between people. No one truly builds profound wisdom in total isolation. It's a group effort, often. Imagine you're trying to solve a really complex jigsaw puzzle. You've been staring at the pieces for ages, turning them over and over, and nothing fits. Your head starts to ache. You're convinced you'll never finish it. But then, a friend walks by, glances at your frustration, and without even thinking, points to a piece you totally missed. Suddenly, that one piece clicks into place, and then another, and another. The puzzle starts to make sense, not because you weren't capable, but because a fresh pair of eyes, a different perspective, helped you see what was hidden. That moment, that small hint, isn't a sign of your failure. It's a moment of connection, a shared path opening up when we finally let go of that quiet struggle and dare to ask for a helping hand. We often find a surprising light. The dead end of silent frustration becomes a wide-open field of new understanding. It reminds us that sometimes, the bravest thing we can do is admit we don't have all the answers, and that true strength lies in our ability to connect, to learn from each other, and to lighten our burdens together. My dream that faded. Have you ever had a dream, a big, bright picture in your mind, that slowly started to fade? Not because you gave up, but because it just changed. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? To watch something you once wanted so much begin to dim, like an old photograph losing its color. We often think of dreams as things we achieve or fail at. But here's the thing. Sometimes, dreams don't disappear because we fail. They fade because we grow, or because life whispers new possibilities, and we learn more about what truly makes our spirit hum. These aren't dead ends in a bad way. They are simply paths that led us to a different view. Think about the ancient Greek philosophers. They talked a lot about accepting what you can't control. They knew that life isn't a straight line. Sometimes, the path you thought was your destiny twists and turns. It's like a river changing its course over many years. The old path isn't wrong. It just isn't where the water flows now. The wisdom is in noticing the new direction and moving with it, instead of trying to force the river back. Imagine you spent years dreaming of becoming a famous artist. You drew constantly, imagined your art in galleries. Then, maybe in middle school, you join the debate club. You discover you love putting words together, building arguments, making ideas click. Suddenly, the desire to paint isn't as strong. It's not gone, but it's softer, quieter. Your dream of being the artist faded, not because you couldn't draw, but because a new passion, the love for words, began to shine brighter. It's like a seed meant to be a tall oak, but it thrives better as a spreading willow. Both beautiful, just different. So, when a dream fades, it's not a loss. It's a clearing. It's space being made. That quiet spot where the old dream used to live. You can plant something new there. It shows you that growth is messy and beautiful and full of surprising turns. It reminds us that sometimes letting go of what we thought we wanted is the first step to finding what we truly need. That's a kind of enlightenment all its own. That empty feeling inside. Have you ever had everything you thought you wanted, but still felt empty? Like a balloon that's lost its air, not popped, just deflated. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? It's not sadness exactly, and it's not boredom either. It's more like a quiet space inside you that feels unfinished or missing something. For thousands of years, people have thought about this feeling. Ancient thinkers, like some of the Greek philosophers, wondered why humans often felt this way, even when they had lots of money or power. They realized that true happiness, or a full life, didn't always come from outside things. They talked about finding inner peace, or meaning, from inside yourself. They believed that looking within was important, a kind of journey to understand what really makes us feel whole. Think about getting a brand new video game you've wanted forever. You play it, you love it, but then, after a few weeks, maybe it's not as exciting. Or maybe you finally win that big contest, and for a moment it's amazing. But then later you just feel normal again. That's a bit like it. It's not that the game or the win wasn't good. It's just that external things outside of us, often give us a rush that fades. Psychology tells us this happens because our brains are wired to get excited by new things, always seeking out new stimulation. But here's the thing. Real lasting fulfillment often comes from much deeper places inside us. That empty feeling can actually be a quiet helper. It's like a gentle whisper, telling you to look beyond what everyone else chases. It might be reminding you that real joy, lasting contentment, comes from within. It comes from understanding yourself, from connecting with others, from doing things that truly matter to you, not just what looks good on the outside. It's an invitation, a soft push, to explore your own thoughts and feelings, and to discover what truly fills your spirit, making you feel completely present and alive. It's not a dead end, but a quiet path inward. A choice I regretted. Do you ever think about a moment, a single decision, and wish you could hit rewind? That deep sinking feeling, right? That's what we call regret. It's not just feeling sad about something that happened. It's more like looking back at a fork in the road and seeing the path you didn't take, wishing you had chosen differently. It's the ghost of a different what if, lingering in your mind. For a long, long time, people have thought about this. Even the ancient thinkers, wise people from history, they talked about how our choices carve out our lives. They understood that every path we pick means leaving other paths behind. And sometimes, those unchosen paths stay with us, a quiet whisper of what might have been. That feeling is old as human thought. Here's what I found. Regret can feel heavy, like a stone in your pocket. Maybe you chose one elective over another, and later, you heard about all the cool things the other class did. Or you said something quickly to a friend, and instantly, you knew it was wrong. That moment of knowing you made a mistake, that's it. It's like when a baker chooses to add salt instead of sugar by mistake. The cake is baked, But the regret isn't about the salty cake itself. It's about the sweet cake they could have made, the one they intended. But here's the thing about regret. It's not just about pain. It's a teacher. It shows us what we truly care about. If you regret hurting a friend, it means you value that friendship. If you regret not trying harder, it means you care about effort and growth. So, that heavy stone can become a stepping stone. It can help you see your values more clearly, gently guiding you toward wiser choices next time. It's a quiet whisper, showing you what truly matters to your heart. The path I thought was mine. Have you ever felt like you knew exactly where you were going? Maybe you saw your future clearly. A top artist, a star athlete, a brilliant scientist. It feels good to have a map, right? This idea that our lives are a straight line we just follow is something many of us believe. We think we know the right way. But what if that path, the one you're so sure of, suddenly closes off? What if it's not the path you thought it was at all? Long ago, wise thinkers, like the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, saw this. He believed true wisdom often comes from realizing what you don't know, or that your first ideas might be wrong. It's like building with leap. You start with a picture, a tall castle. You carefully add piece after piece. But then, maybe a crucial part is missing, or the structure keeps falling down. The path you thought you were on, to that specific castle, is blocked. This isn't about failing, it's about changing direction. Imagine you're trying to find a specific website for a school project. You type in the address, but it gives a page not found error. That's a dead end, right? But instead of giving up, you might try a different search, or click a related link. And sometimes, you find something even better. A website you didn't even know existed, full of cool facts. The dead end wasn't a stop. It was a signal to look in a new place. So, when the path you thought was yours turns out to be a detour, or a completely different journey, remember this. It's not that your map failed. It's simply life showing you there are more maps, more paths than you ever imagined. And sometimes, the most beautiful adventures begin when the first path gently fades away. When I faced a bully, have you ever felt a sharp, cold fear, like a sudden storm brewing inside you? Sometimes, the most difficult moments, the ones that feel like a dead end, are actually hidden doorways. Facing a bully can be one of those moments. It's not about fighting back with fists, but finding a quiet strength deep within. When someone tries to make you feel small or afraid, it feels like a wall has gone up. It hurts, and it can make you want to disappear. But here's the thing. Those moments, as tough as they are, can also be a mirror. They force you to look at yourself, not in anger, but with a deeper curiosity. What do I stand for? How do I find peace when someone else wants to disturb it? Ancient thinkers often spoke about how challenges aren't just obstacles. They are teachers. Imagine a tiny seed pushing up through hard, dry earth. That struggle isn't pointless. It's what makes the plant strong enough to face the wind and the sun. The soil's resistance isn't there to stop the seed, but to help it grow roots and reach for the sky. Think about it like this. When a metalsmith wants to make a strong sword, they don't just melt the metal and pour it. They heat it up, hammer it, then cool it down quickly. This process, which seems harsh, makes the metal incredibly tough and resilient. Your spirit can be like that metal. The pressure from a bully can feel like that hammering. It's painful, yes, but it can also forge something stronger in you. So, the dead end of facing a bully isn't really an end at all. It's often a quiet turning point. It's a moment where you begin to understand that your inner strength, your kindness, and your own voice are more powerful than any fear another person tries to put on you. And that understanding, that quiet shift, is a kind of enlightenment. My big mistake in front of all. Have you ever stumbled, truly stumbled, right in front of everyone you know? Maybe you said the wrong thing, or tripped, or just totally froze when all eyes were on you. That feeling, the blush creeping up your neck, the sudden heat in your ears, the way you just want the floor to swallow you whole, that's a deep, raw moment, isn't it? It feels like the end of the world, like your mistake is a giant, flashing billboard for everyone to see. And it stays with you, sometimes for a long time. But here's the thing about those big public mistakes. They can be powerful thinkers. From way back, like ancient Greek philosophers, knew that real learning often comes from moments of suffering or failure. They talked about how you often can't truly understand something, or even yourself, until you face a tough challenge, or a humiliating moment. It's like a sculptor chipping away at a block of stone. The stone might resist, pieces might break off messily, but that breaking helps reveal the shape within. Imagine you're in the school play, and it's your big moment to deliver a line, but you totally forget it. The silence stretches. You feel everyone looking. Your mind goes blank. It's crushing. You might want to run off stage and never come back. But what happens next? You either figure out how to get through it, or you learn what to do differently next time. Maybe you learn to handle pressure better, or to memorize lines in a new way, or simply that forgetting a line isn't the end of the world. And that's why it matters. These moments strip away our pride and show us where we're human. They teach us humility. They force us to look at ourselves honestly. It's in those humbling moments, when we feel completely exposed, that we often find a new kind of strength. The mistake isn't a dead end, it's a doorway. It guides us, quietly, towards a deeper understanding of who we are and how much stronger we can become. The lesson I refuse to learn. Have you ever felt a deep knowing inside? Like a quiet whisper telling you something important, but you just ignored it. It's like that feeling when you know you should apologize, or study for a test, or maybe just take a break. You know it, really know it, but you push it away. This isn't about not knowing. This is about refusing to know, or to accept what you already understand. Wise thinkers from long ago talked about this. They said a lot of our struggles come not from being lost, but from resisting the path right in front of us. It's like we have an inner compass, but sometimes we tie a blindfold over our own eyes. Here's the thing, sometimes the simplest truths are the hardest to face. Imagine you're trying to build something, maybe a model rocket. The instructions are right there, clear as day. But you think, nah, I know better. You try to force pieces together, maybe even break them. You get frustrated. You keep trying the same wrong way, over and over, even though the right way is staring at you from the page. It feels easier to just keep doing what you're doing, even if it leads to frustration. You know the solution is to follow the steps, but you resist. That resistance, that refusal to learn what we already know, can keep us stuck. But here's what happens. Real change, deep, quiet growth, often comes when we finally put down our stubbornness. It's not about suddenly finding a hidden answer. It's about letting go of the fight against the answer that's been there all along. It takes a gentle courage to admit that maybe, just maybe, the lesson we keep pushing away is the very one that will set us free. And when we do, a different kind of light can shine in. Feeling trapped in my head. Have you ever felt like your own thoughts were a room with no doors? Like a puzzle you can't solve inside your head? This isn't about being stuck in a physical place. It's about that heavy feeling when your mind keeps replaying worries, fears, or mistakes over and over until it feels like there's no escape. Your thoughts can become a kind of cage. For thousands of years, people have felt this way. Ancient thinkers, long before us, wrote about how our minds can either set us free or trap us. They knew the brain could be a beautiful garden, but also a confusing maze. It's part of being human to sometimes feel caught by our own thoughts, especially the looping ones. They can make us feel alone, even with friends nearby. Here's an example. Imagine a song stuck on repeat in your head. It might be a good song at first, but after a while, it just becomes annoying noise. Or, think about being really worried about a test. That one worry can grow so big, it fills up your whole mind. It's like being in a small room, and all you can hear is that one worry, echoing. It can be hard to think of anything else. But here's the thing about those trapped feelings. Even when it feels like a dead end, it's often just a point of turning. The wall isn't always solid. It's a chance to look for a window, a hidden door, or just sit and observe your thoughts without letting them control you. Realizing you're trapped is the first quiet step to finding freedom. It's an invitation to explore your inner world. The mind, even when it feels small, also holds the key to its own freedom. It's a quiet chance to understand yourself better. My search for the right answer. Have you ever searched for an answer, only to find yourself hitting a wall? You try one way, it doesn't work. You try another, still no luck. It feels like you're stuck, or that you've reached a dead end. We often think there's just one perfect answer waiting for us. But what if the search itself holds more truth than the destination? Sometimes, what looks like a dead end isn't a failure at all. It's a step. It shows you what isn't the answer. And that knowledge, knowing what doesn't work, is incredibly important. It clears the path forward, even if you don't see it yet. Think about people from long ago, even ancient times. They looked up at the night sky, full of wonder. They asked huge questions. Why does the sun rise? What makes the stars shine? They didn't have books or the internet to tell them. They had to guess, test their ideas, and sometimes those ideas led them down paths that turned out to be wrong. But each time they learned. Each wrong turn was a lesson. This slow, patient kind of searching is how humans have gathered so much wisdom over thousands of years. It's how we truly understand things. Imagine you're trying to make a paper airplane fly perfectly. You fold it one way, and it just dives straight down. That's a dead end for flight. So, you try a different wing shape. This one spins wildly. Another dead end. But with each attempt, you're learning about lift, about balance, about how air moves. You're not just looking for the right fold. You're discovering countless ways that don't work, which slowly guides you toward a better design. Maybe you even invent a completely new way to make it fly. Something surprising. So, the right answer might not be a single finish line. It's often a journey through many paths, some clear, some winding, some that feel like they go nowhere. But on every single path, even the ones that seem to lead to nothing, you gain new insight. You learn about the question, and more deeply, you learn about yourself. The real wisdom isn't just in finding an answer, but in the courage to keep searching, to keep reflecting, and to know that every experience, even a misstep, holds a valuable lesson. The song, I Couldn't Master. Have you ever worked really hard at something, only to feel like you just couldn't get it right? Maybe a tough math problem, a tricky move in a sport, or a song you practiced countless times. The notes just wouldn't connect, or the rhythm felt wrong. It feels like hitting a wall, a dead end, doesn't it? But here's the quiet truth. Sometimes, those moments of being completely stuck are exactly where the deepest learning truly begins. Think about inventors, or explorers. Before a bright idea shines, countless attempts don't quite work. Each time a plan fails, it's not a stop sign. Instead, it's like a new piece of a map, showing which paths don't lead where you want to go. Ancient thinkers knew that true wisdom came from stretching your mind when it struggled. It's like your brain building new, stronger muscles, ready for the next challenge. So, imagine you're trying to master a hard song on the piano. Your fingers stumble, frustration builds, you want to give up. But if you push through, something shifts. You start listening in a new way. You try different finger positions. You slow the tempo down to truly feel each note. You might realize a small mistake, or understand why a certain chord feels awkward. This isn't just about music. It's about anything in life that challenges you. When a science project fails, you learn critical details. When a conversation with a friend goes wrong, you learn something new about listening or understanding. That song you couldn't master. It wasn't a dead end for your musical journey. It became a powerful lesson in patience, problem solving, and understanding your own resilience. These dead ends are often just hidden starting points to a deeper kind of wisdom. They teach us not just how to reach a goal, but how to grow and find new ways forward, even when the path feels completely blocked. And that quiet, powerful journey of discovery is why these struggles matter. When I felt completely lost, have you ever felt like you were walking in the dark, even in broad daylight? Like every path ahead just dissolved, leaving you standing nowhere. That feeling, when you're completely lost, it's not always about not knowing where your house is. Sometimes, it's a deep kind of confusion in your mind or your heart. It's when you don't know what to do next, or who you're supposed to be, or what even matters anymore. It's like standing at a crossroads, but all the signs are blank. For thousands of years, people have wrestled with this feeling. Ancient Greek thinkers, like the philosopher Socrates, spent their lives asking big questions because they often felt lost about the real answers. They saw this confusion not as a problem to hide, but as a chance to dig deeper. Explorers, sailing into unknown seas, didn't have maps for where they were going. They had to feel lost before they could discover new lands. So, feeling lost isn't new. It's a very human experience. Don't think about working on a super tricky puzzle. You've got all these pieces, but none of them seem to fit. You try one, then another, but nothing clicks. You might even feel frustrated, like giving up. That's a bit like feeling lost. Your mind is trying to put things together, but the picture isn't clear yet. You keep trying different pieces, even if they seem like dead ends at first. Sometimes, you just need to step back and look at the whole picture again, or even try flipping a piece around. Here's the thing. Often, feeling completely lost is actually the first step towards finding something new, something unexpected. It's in those moments of confusion that we truly stop and rethink. It's like hitting a wall and then realizing there's an open door right beside it that you never saw before. It reminds us that sometimes we need to lose our way to discover a new, better path. And that's why it matters. It's not about failure. It's about transformation, a quiet, deep kind of growth. My Quest for Perfection, voiceover.com. Reflective. Have you ever looked at something and thought, this could be better if only it were perfect? Maybe it was a drawing, a song you were practicing, or even an answer you gave in class. For a long time I chased this idea of perfect. It felt like a shining, distant star, always just out of reach. I imagined a flawless piece of art, a truly complete thought, a moment where everything just fit without a single tiny flaw. This isn't a new idea. Humans have dreamed of perfection for thousands of years. Ancient Greek thinkers, like Plato, even imagined a world of perfect forms where the idea of a tree or beauty existed in its purest state. They believed everything on earth was just a copy, a shadow of that ideal. It's a powerful thought, this yearning for something absolutely right. But here's the thing, our real world is full of rough edges and unexpected turns. Think about a time you tried to draw a perfect circle. You sketch, erase, try again. Maybe you use a compass, but even then, up close, there's always a tiny wobble, a slightly uneven line. It's never truly perfect. You might get frustrated, feeling like your drawing isn't good enough because it's not perfectly round, and that's why it matters. This quest, while it can push us, can also become a dead end. We might spend so much time fixing tiny flaws we never finish, or feel disappointed even when we've done something truly beautiful. But what if the beauty isn't in the flawless circle, but in the effort, the learning, the unique wobble that makes it yours? The journey itself, with all its mistakes and redos, holds more truth, more light, than any impossible, perfect destination. It's in those almost perfect moments, those small imperfections, that we find ourselves and truly grow. The walls I built around me. Have you ever felt like you were standing still, even though you really wanted to move forward? Like there was an invisible barrier, a quiet whisper in your mind saying, don't go there, or you can't do that. Here's the thing, sometimes the biggest obstacles aren't outside of us. They are walls we build ourselves, brick by careful brick, often without even realizing it. These aren't made of stone, but of fears, doubts, old habits, or ideas about ourselves that might not be true anymore. Think about it. Humans have always done this. For centuries, thinkers and philosophers have talked about how our own minds can create prisons. It's natural to want to feel safe. We build these mental walls to protect ourselves from pain, from failure, from looking foolish. But while they might keep some bad things out, they also keep many good things in, like new experiences, growth, and unexpected joy. Imagine a scientist working in their lab. They have a theory, an idea about how something works. But what if they only ever tested it in one very specific way, in one tiny corner of their lab? What if they were afraid to try new methods or combine different chemicals because they'd always done it the same way? That fear, that reluctance to step outside their usual routine, would be a wall. It would stop them from making a new discovery, or think about trying out for the school play. You might tell yourself, I'm not good enough, or everyone will laugh. Those thoughts are the bricks. They stop you from even stepping onto the stage, from finding out if you actually have a hidden talent. You build a wall of what ifs and I can'ts. But here's what happens when you learn to see those walls, to understand they are not real physical barriers, but ideas you hold. You gain a quiet power. That dead end, that feeling of being stuck, suddenly becomes a window. It becomes a chance to peer over the top, to ask, what if I tried just one new thing? And that's often when true understanding and new paths begin to appear, right where you thought there was nothing. A voice telling me you can't. Have you ever heard a quiet whisper inside your head, just as you're about to try something new or difficult? A voice that softly, but surely, says, you can't do that, or maybe, you're not good enough. It's not a voice from outside, not someone else speaking, but something that feels like it comes from deep within you. It tells you to stop, to give up, to not even try. This isn't just a modern feeling. For centuries, people have wrestled with this, feeling Even philosophers in ancient Greece knew that our biggest obstacles often weren't out in the world, but inside our own minds. This voice is often made of fear. Fear of failing, fear of looking silly, fear of what others might think. It acts like a gatekeeper, trying to protect you, but sometimes it also stops you from growing. Think about a really tough math problem. You look at it, and right away, that voice might say, "Too hard, you'll never get it." Or maybe you're learning a new song on an instrument, and your fingers won't cooperate. The voice might say, "You're just not musical." But here's the thing, that whisper isn't always the truth. It's often just a reflex, a habit of thought. Sometimes, hearing "you can't" is actually the beginning of something great. It's a moment where you get to decide. Do you listen to that voice and turn away? Or do you take a deep breath and quietly, steadily, choose to try anyway? When you push past that internal no, even a little bit, that's where real understanding starts to blossom. It's where you learn what you're truly capable of, and that's a powerful kind of light. When I blamed others, have you ever felt that hot rush, that quick urge to point a finger when something goes wrong? It's easier, isn't it, to say, "It's their fault," or "the situation made me do it." We all do it sometimes. Blaming others feels like it lifts the weight off our shoulders for a moment. But here's the thing about that relief, it's like a cloud passing. It doesn't last. And beneath it, the problem still waits, unchanged. Blame is a shield we hold up, trying to block the discomfort of our own part in things, even if that part is just how we reacted. Ancient thinkers, thousands of years ago, understood this. They talked about knowing yourself, looking inward, not to judge harshly, but to truly see. They believed true strength wasn't about controlling the world outside, but about mastering the world inside. They knew that if you always blame something else, you give away your power. You become like a boat without a rudder, tossed by every wave, never steering your own course. Think about it like this. You trip and fall on the sidewalk. You could get angry at the crack in the pavement, or at the city for not fixing it, and maybe those are valid points. But yelling at the crack won't heal your scraped knee. The real power comes from brushing yourself off, learning to watch where you step next time, or understanding that sometimes falls just happen. The crack is there, yes, but your response to it, that's where your power lies. It's about deciding what you do next, not just who or what to blame. When we stop blaming, something amazing happens. We find a quiet strength. We realize that, even when things aren't our fault, our reaction always is. And that knowledge, that deep understanding, is like finding a hidden map to our own growth. It's a dead end if we keep pointing fingers, but a wide open path if we choose to look within, even just a little. My shadow following me. Have you ever really watched your own shadow, really paid attention to it? It's always there, isn't it? Following you, changing shape, but never leaving your side. Here's the thing, we all carry a different kind of shadow. It's made of the parts of ourselves we sometimes ignore or try to hide away. A thinker named Carl Jung talked about this. He called it the shadow self. It's not about being evil. It's about the feelings and traits we might not like in ourselves. Maybe it's our anger, our sadness, our fears, or even our jealous thoughts. We often push these things away, hoping they'll disappear. But like a real shadow, they stick around, following us. Imagine feeling really upset, but you pretend you're fine. You might smile, act calm, and tell everyone you're okay. But that upset feeling is still there, deep inside, following you like a quiet companion. Sometimes, it pops out as a sharp word, or a sudden feeling of being overwhelmed. It's the part you tried to put in the dark. So, here's what I found. Facing our personal shadows isn't about becoming dark. It's about becoming complete. It's like shining a light into a dim corner. The scary shapes might just be everyday things. When we see and accept these parts, even the ones we don't prefer, they lose their power. It's not about fixing them all at once, but simply noticing them, and that's why it matters. Understanding what walks behind us helps us step forward with more peace and a clearer heart. The path less traveled. Have you ever stood at a fork in the road, wondering which way to go? Not just a physical road, but in life. When you face a new idea or big decision, sometimes the most interesting journeys happen when we step off the usual trail. This is the path less traveled. It's about choosing a different way, even when it feels uncertain or lonely. It means doing something new, instead of what everyone else does. Most people follow the crowd. They do what's popular, or what's always been done. But some brave people decide to explore something new. They might try a different way to solve a problem, or they ask questions nobody else asks. They might even fail many times, hitting what seems like a dead end. But in those moments, they often find something truly special. Think about Galileo. Most people thought Earth was the center of the universe. But Galileo, watching the stars, showed Earth moves around the sun. His path was very different from what was accepted. He faced problems for his ideas, but his unique path led to a huge truth about our universe. Here's a simpler idea. Imagine you want to make a short film for a school project. Most friends use popular apps, but you try something different. You use old cameras and tell a unique story about your neighborhood. People might say it won't be good. You might struggle, and it might seem messy. But by trying that unusual path, you learn about storytelling and your unique voice. Things you'd never learn otherwise. This path isn't about being different just to be different. It's about listening to that quiet feeling inside that says, what if we tried it this way? It's about having the courage to explore ideas that seem strange or difficult. Often, these detours, even apparent dead ends, lead to surprising discoveries. They can lead to a deeper understanding of the world and of who you really are. It's a quiet wisdom that only comes from going your own way. When silence spoke loudest, have you ever noticed what happens when everything around you just stops? The chattering of classmates, the buzz of your phone, the music in your ears. When all that fades and deep quiet settles, something interesting can begin. It might feel strange at first, almost empty. But here's the thing, silence isn't always empty. Sometimes it's when our deepest thoughts, the ones we usually can't hear, finally speak. For a very long time, people have learned important things from silence. Think about ancient wise people or artists today who go to quiet places to think, to create. They weren't looking for answers in loud shouts or busy crowds. Instead, they found clarity in the stillness. It's like their minds needed a break from noise, so important ideas could float up. It's a way of listening, not to the world outside, but to the world inside you. Imagine your brain is like a messy backpack, full of ideas, worries, and thoughts, all jumbled up. When you're constantly adding things or shaking the backpack, it's hard to find anything. But what if you put the backpack down, stop adding, and just sit with it? You might finally see that one important item you were looking for, hidden beneath everything else. That quiet moment helps your mind organize itself. It's not about finding a new path, but seeing the one there all along, just hidden by noise. So sometimes, when we hit a dead end, when nothing works, the best thing is to just stop. Be still, let the world quiet down, and let your true feelings and thoughts rise. It's in these calm, quiet spaces that understanding often blooms, like a flower opening after a busy day. And that's why it matters. Sometimes the loudest, most meaningful answers come from the softest, silent places. My struggle with being myself. Have you ever looked in the mirror, or felt your heart quiet down, and wondered, who am I really? It's a feeling many of us know, this quiet wrestling with our own skin. Sometimes, it feels like we're trying on different outfits of personality, seeing what fits, what makes others happy. Maybe we try to be funnier, or smarter, or cooler, just to fit into a group. And here's the thing, that struggle, that feeling of not quite being you, can be a real dead end. It can make you feel lost, like a melody played in the wrong key. For thousands of years, people have thought about this. Ancient thinkers in Greece, like a man named Socrates, famously said, "Know thyself." They understood that figuring out who you are, separate from what others expect, is a huge part of life. It's not just a modern problem, it's a human problem, woven into our very nature. We want to belong, but sometimes, in trying so hard to belong, we forget ourselves. Think of it like this. Imagine a sunflower seed. It holds within it the promise of a tall, bright yellow flower, turning its face to the sun. But what if that sunflower seed, seeing all the tiny wildflowers around it, decided it wanted to be a small daisy instead? It would try its best, pushing out little white petals, but it would never truly bloom. It wouldn't feel right because it wasn't living out its own truth, its own purpose. The seed's struggle to be a daisy is a dead end. Its enlightenment comes when it realizes it's meant to be a sunflower. Our own struggle to be someone else can feel like that. It's a journey down a path that doesn't quite lead anywhere good. But here's the quiet truth. Finding your own true self isn't about being perfect. It's about slowly, gently, letting go of who you think you should be, and embracing the wonderful, unique person you already are. It's a quiet turning point, a soft opening to the sunlight of acceptance, and that's where the real growth begins. The fear of what's next. Have you ever stood at the edge of something new, a big change, and felt that little flutter of worry, that whisper of what if? It's a feeling we all know, the fear of what's next. It's not just about scary things. Even good changes can feel daunting because we don't know how they'll turn out. Here's the thing. Humans have always felt this way. Imagine ancient people, long ago, standing at the edge of a vast forest. They didn't know what was beyond the trees. Maybe new food, maybe danger. That unknown can feel bigger than any known problem. The old Greek thinkers, like the Stoics, talked about controlling what you can. They knew you couldn't control the future, but you could control your reaction to the unknown. They taught that worrying about what might happen wastes energy for what is happening now. Imagine you're about to try out for the school play. You've practiced your lines 1,000,000 times. But just before you go on stage, a knot forms in your throat. You might wonder, what if I forget my lines? What if I trip? That's the fear of what's next. But here's what happens. You step onto the stage, do your best, and whatever happens, you've faced it. Even if it's not perfect, you learn. The path ahead often looks foggy, doesn't it? Like walking through a mist where you can only see a few steps. But that mist isn't always hiding monsters. Sometimes, it's just the cloud of not knowing, and that's okay. Because in that unknown, there's always the chance for something amazing to appear, something you couldn't have imagined. So, maybe the fear isn't a wall, but just a gate we can walk through, even with a little shake, to find what lies beyond. Often, what lies beyond is simply the next step, a new beginning, waiting to be discovered. A world that felt too big. Have you ever looked out at the sky on a clear night, seen all those countless stars, and felt incredibly small, like a tiny speck on a tiny rock, spinning through an endless, silent dark? It's a feeling that can make your chest ache, a sense that the world, the universe even, is just too vast to truly grasp. For many people, for a long time, this feeling was like hitting a wall, a dead end of understanding. How could one small person matter in something so unbelievably huge? For thousands of years, humans have gazed up and wondered. Ancient people tried to draw maps of the world, often believing their own land was the very center, and the edges just fell off. It was their way of trying to make a giant, scary world feel a little smaller, a little more understandable. Then, explorers sailed further, telescopes peered deeper, and suddenly, the world exploded in size again. We learned about continents we never knew existed, stars light years away. Each new discovery pushed the boundaries even further, making the unknown even bigger, and that feeling of smallness could grow into a quiet despair. It felt like no matter how much you learned, you'd never even touch the surface. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to learn everything there is to know about the internet. Every website, every video, every single comment ever posted. It's simply too much. You could spend 1,000 lifetimes and still not even come close. That feeling of too much can stop you cold, make you want to just give up. It's easy to feel lost in that ocean of information, or in the jauntness of the actual world. But here's the thing, that feeling of being small, of the world being too big, isn't always a dead end. Instead, it can quietly open a door. It's not about understanding every single thing. It's about finding your own small, precious spot within the grand design. It's about realizing that the world's vastness isn't a judgment on your size, but an invitation to wonder. When you accept the bigness, you can let go of the pressure to know it all. You can just be. You can appreciate the tiny flower at your feet with the same quiet awe as you do the distant galaxy. The overwhelming size can transform into a deep sense of peace, knowing you are part of something truly immense and mysterious. It's a reminder that even in the largest spaces, your own journey, your own quiet moments, are deeply important. When I had no answers, have you ever felt completely stuck, like you're standing in a thick fog, unable to see your path forward? That feeling, when every question you ask yourself just returns with silence, that's when I had no answers. It's not just about a test, it's a deeper kind of not knowing. When your usual ways of figuring things out simply stop working. Here's the thing. This feeling isn't a dead end, it's a starting point. Think about wise people in history. Many believed true understanding began when they admitted they didn't know everything. A long time ago, a Greek thinker named Socrates famously said, "I know that I know nothing." Sounds strange, but he meant pretending to have all the answers stops true learning. When you truly don't know, your mind opens. You start looking for new ways to see. Imagine trying to solve a tough puzzle. You've turned the pieces every way, and nothing fits. You feel frustrated, even lost. But then, you take a deep breath. You step back. You stop forcing the pieces. In that moment of not knowing, your brain might suddenly see a pattern you missed. Maybe a piece that looked wrong before now looks just right, just turned differently. That pause, that not knowing, allowed your brain to reset and try a new angle. And that's why it matters. Life often gives us these moments. Maybe it's a problem with a friend you can't solve, or a big decision about your future. When you find yourself in that quiet space, where old solutions don't work and new ones haven't appeared, it can feel scary, but it's also a powerful chance. It's an invitation to look deeper, to listen to what's truly there, beyond the noise of what you think you should know. It's in those spaces of not knowing that real growth often begins, like a tiny seed waiting in the dark earth to sprout. My moment of feeling small. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt really, really tiny? Like a single speck, floating in something endlessly huge. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? It's not about your height. It's about sensing something vast around you. Something much bigger than your daily thoughts, or even your whole world. For thousands of years, people have looked up at the stars. They saw countless points of light, a deep darkness stretching forever, and they felt this same feeling. Ancient thinkers, long before telescopes, understood there was something immense out there. They wondered about their place in it all. It wasn't scary. It was simply true. It made them think about everything differently. Imagine you're standing outside on a clear night. You tilt your head back. The stars are so many, so bright. Each one is a sun, maybe even bigger than ours. They are so far away, light years beyond anything we can grasp. You might feel a little shiver, a quiet sense of just how vast the universe is. Your school, your town, even our whole earth can feel like a small blue marble in that endless black. That's the moment. It might feel a little overwhelming at first, but here's the thing. Feeling small can actually be a good thing. It's not about being unimportant. It's about realizing how much wonder is out there. It reminds you that your problems, big as they feel, are part of a larger story. It can make you feel connected to something grand, not lost. It can spark a quiet curiosity. It helps you appreciate your small space, and it makes you eager to explore the vastness you don't know. It's a moment of calm, awe, and it can quietly open your mind to new ideas, possibilities, and the simple beauty of being here. The door I couldn't open. Have you ever stood before a door that just wouldn't budge? Not a real door, but a big problem, a feeling you couldn't shake, or a goal that felt totally out of reach. That's what we mean by the door I couldn't open. It's that moment you try everything, you push, you pull, you even kick a little, but nothing happens. The path you thought you were on suddenly stops. It feels like a dead end. For a long, long time, people have faced these kinds of walls. Think about ancient thinkers trying to figure out the stars, or early scientists trying to cure sickness. They hit so many unopenable doors. Each time they failed or found an idea didn't work, it felt like a door slamming shut. But here's the thing. Those closed doors weren't always failures. They were lessons. They showed what wasn't the way forward, pushing them to new ideas, new questions. It's how they learned to see differently. Think about trying to learn a new trick on a skateboard, or playing a tough song on the piano. You practice and practice, but some part just won't click. You fall, your fingers stumble, and it feels like you'll never get it right. That's a door that feels completely shut. But those struggles, those moments of feeling stuck, they teach you patience. They teach you about what you can and can't do yet, and they often make you try a totally different way. Maybe you slow down, ask for help, or realize you need a simpler skill first. So, when you face a door that refuses to open, it's not always a sign to give up. Sometimes, it's like a quiet message telling you to pause, to think, to maybe look for a totally different path, a new window, or even just to wait until you have a different key. Because sometimes, the most important lessons are found, not in opening a door, but in truly understanding why it stayed closed. A secret I held inside. Do you ever keep thoughts or feelings just for yourself? Sometimes, a secret I held inside isn't dramatic. It's a hidden worry, a fear of failing, or a dream too shy to speak aloud. It's a part of ourselves we keep locked away. And here's the thing, when we keep these inner truths hidden, they can feel like invisible walls. They stop us from trying new things, from asking for help, or from truly being ourselves. This turns a clear path into a dead end, because we're holding ourselves back. For centuries, wise people found clarity by looking inward. Think of diary keepers or old philosophers who spent quiet hours just thinking. They knew big discoveries come from exploring your own mind, not new lands. They brought their inner secrets into the light. Imagine a delicate butterfly cocoon. Inside, it holds the secret of transformation. If it stayed closed, the butterfly could never fly. But when time is right, it pushes against that shell. That struggle leads to freedom. Our inner secrets can be like that cocoon, holding something amazing that needs release. Maybe you've had a tough time understanding something in science or history. You might feel embarrassed to admit you don't get it. Keeping that confusion a secret, it feels like a roadblock. But then, you quietly ask a friend, or raise your hand. The moment you share that confusion, it often starts to clear. The path forward opens with light. Letting out these inner secrets, our true feelings and struggles can feel vulnerable, but it's also incredibly powerful. It's a moment of bravery. A dead end inside your mind turns into a wide open space. It's about finding courage in your own truth. Understanding the hardest truths are often those we hide from ourselves. When everything felt wrong, have you ever felt completely lost? Like you were walking down a path, and suddenly, everything just felt off. The ground seemed uneven. The air felt strange. You knew, deep down, that you were in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing, or maybe even being the wrong person. It's a heavy, confusing feeling. It makes your stomach clench and your mind cloud over. Here's the thing about that feeling. It's not always a bad sign. For a very long time, people thought that feeling wrong meant you had failed. But what if it's actually a quiet whisper, a gentle nudge from your own understanding, telling you to look closer? Think about the ancient thinkers, the philosophers, even scientists. So many of their biggest discoveries didn't come from knowing all the answers. They came from feeling utterly stuck, from realizing something wasn't working. They felt that deep sense of wrongness about what they thought they knew. That feeling pushed them to question everything. Imagine you're trying to solve a really tricky puzzle, or trying to learn a new piece on an instrument. At first, your hands might not cooperate. The notes sound terrible. The pieces don't fit. It feels wrong, very wrong. You might try fitting a square piece into a round hole over and over. That frustrating wrong feeling, it's not telling you to give up. It's telling you that this specific way isn't working. It's a signal, a little inner alarm, asking you to pause, to look at the puzzle again, to try a different angle, a new strategy. So, when that deep feeling of everything felt wrong washes over you, remember it. Don't push it away. Instead, let it be a quiet moment for reflection. It might just be the most important moment, the very start of seeing things in a completely new light. It's often where true enlightenment begins, not ends. My journey through failure. Have you ever wondered what happens when things don't go your way? When you try your hardest, and still, it falls apart. That feeling, a mix of disappointment and confusion, is something we all know. But here's the thing. What if those moments aren't really endings at all? What if they're turning points, dressed up as defeat? For as long as humans have walked this earth, we've met obstacles. Think about the very first people trying to make fire, or build a shelter. They didn't get it right the first time, or even the 100th. Each spark that fizzled, each branch that snapped, taught them something new. It's a quiet whisper from the past. Every failure is a lesson in disguise, shaping us, guiding us. It's an ancient kind of wisdom, passed down through every stumble. Imagine, you're trying to learn a complicated piece on the piano. Your fingers might trip over the keys. The notes might sound jumbled. You might feel frustrated, like you'll never get it right. But each wrong note, each missed beat, actually shows you where to adjust, where to slow down, where to practice more. It's not just about hitting the right notes. It's about understanding the music deeply, through every mistake. Your brain isn't just failing, it's mapping out the path to mastery, one wrong chord at a time. This process builds a quiet strength inside you. So, when something doesn't work out, Don't see it as a closed door. Instead, maybe see it as a hidden garden path, one that leads you to a deeper understanding of yourself and the world. Every dead end, every little heartbreak can soften your spirit, sharpen your mind, and gently nudge you towards a place of unexpected enlightenment. It's a quiet promise that even in shadows, light can be found. The hard truth I heard: have you ever wished for an easy way through something tough? Maybe a school project, or learning a new skill. We often hope for a straight, smooth path to understanding, for answers to just appear. But here's the thing: sometimes, the greatest lessons aren't found on that easy road. They hide in the twists, the turns, and especially in the dead ends. I heard a truth once that really made me think. It wasn't about finding a magic shortcut. Instead, it whispered that the journey to real knowing, to true wisdom, often asks us to face what isn't working. It asks us to look closely at our mistakes, at the paths that led nowhere. This idea isn't new. Ancient thinkers, people like the Greek philosophers, understood that questioning and struggling with hard problems was how you actually got somewhere deep. It wasn't about having all the answers at first. It was about seeking them, even when it hurt or felt confusing. Think about a time you tried to learn something completely new, like riding a skateboard or playing a difficult song on an instrument. You probably fell. You probably hit wrong notes. It felt like a dead end, didn't it? Like you'd never get it right. But each fall, each wrong note, showed you what not to do. It pointed to how you could adjust, how you could improve. You learned more from those failures than from any perfect first try. So, the hard truth isn't really a punishment. It's a guide. It reminds us that our biggest breakthroughs often arrive wrapped in moments of confusion or defeat. It's in those moments, when things feel hardest, that we're truly learning to see with new eyes. And that's why it matters, because the path isn't broken just because it's not easy. It might just be showing you a different way to grow. When I finally understood, have you ever worked on something really hard, tried different ways, and felt totally stuck, like you hit a wall? It feels frustrating, right? But then, sometimes, out of nowhere, it just clicks. You see the answer, or the path forward, and it feels like a light turns on. That feeling of finally understanding often comes after a lot of moments where we thought we were getting nowhere. Here's the thing: those moments of feeling stuck, those dead ends, aren't wasted. Think about inventors, like Thomas Edison. He famously said he didn't fail 10,000 times trying to make a light bulb. He just found 10,000 ways that wouldn't work. Each failure taught him something important. Ancient thinkers and philosophers also spent their lives asking big questions, trying out ideas, and often realizing one path was wrong before finding a better one. They saw these detours as part of the learning. It's a bit like trying to solve a really tricky jigsaw puzzle. You pick up a piece, thinking it goes here, but it doesn't fit. That's a dead end for that piece. You try another spot, and another. Each time it doesn't fit, you learn a bit more about the shape or the picture. You understand where it doesn't go. And then, suddenly, a space opens up, and the piece slides right in. That moment of understanding, that little aha feeling, didn't come from just knowing the answer magically. It came from all the wrong tries that showed you the right way. So when we finally understand something, it's not just about the answer itself. It's about the journey we took to get there. The dead ends were actually secret guides, quietly showing us what wasn't right, so we could appreciate what truly was. And that's why it matters. The path, even with its bumps, helps us see the light more clearly. The end, that was a beginning. Have you ever felt like something was totally finished, like a door slammed shut, and there was just nothing left? We often think of endings as final, sad, or maybe even like a failure. But here's the thing: sometimes, what seems like a complete end is actually just the quiet start of something truly new. It's not about giving up, but about a shift, a gentle turning. People have thought about this idea for ages. Ancient stories, old sayings, they often talk about how life moves in cycles. Think about nature. A big, strong tree might lose all its leaves in the fall, looking bare, almost dead. That looks like an end, right? But that's just preparing for the new, tiny buds of spring. It's never truly over. It's just changing form, getting ready for the next part of its journey. Consider a tiny seed. To grow into a strong plant, the seed itself has to end. It breaks open, it seems to decay and disappear into the soil. But from that very end comes a tender sprout then a stem, and eventually a beautiful flower or a tall tree. The seed's ending wasn't a failure. It was the essential beginning of its true purpose. Its very end held all the hidden power for its future. So, when we face what feels like a dead end in our own lives, maybe it's not really the end of the road. Maybe it's just life inviting us to look for a different path, to grow in a way we hadn't imagined, it's a chance to learn something new, to change, or to find a deeper part of ourselves. The end can be a quiet promise, a hopeful whisper, reminding us that every closing door can lead us to a new, unexpected beginning. We just have to look for the light coming through the cracks.